My mother is in her 60s, I am in my 30s, and she published her diary in which she writes about resenting me as a child. And I'm not sure how to respond. I apologize for the wall of text. My mother has fancied herself as a writer for as long as I can remember. She has kept journals dating back to junior high school, detailing everything from first periods to first boyfriends, etc. After numerous rejection letters from publishing houses, my mother decided to self-publish her book. She's been asking for family and friends to review her book, and after several months of avoiding the situation, my sister bought it. She was skimming through it while on the phone with me and nearly immediately advised me against reading it. I did and was saddened, but not really surprised to learn that it's filled with not only memories of her growing up, but my first years as well. I am portrayed as both the light of her life and the bane of her existence. I am extra work. I hound her with my large vocabulary. I whine and I am rude, and that gets in the way of her loving me, and so much more. My mother has always been self-centered, and as a child, I endured a ton of emotional abuse from her. I left home early, and our relationship is still strained, even 20-something years later. Her narcissistic tendencies have continued, impacting her relationships with her grandchildren. Reddit, I am just so done. I don't know how to respond to her request for a book review. She cries victim every time I have tried to tell her the truth about her behavior, and I'm painted as the bad seed. I'm so used to her behavior that while I was saddened by what she wrote, resignation was the overwhelming emotion. She's never going to change. There isn't anything I can do to make her realize that she's not destined to be the next Elizabeth Gilbert, and I am done trying. She has the ear of my grandparents, who are also maligned in the book, and my stepdad, all of whom I love dearly. My relationships with them would suffer if I went no contact with my mother. Update number 1. About a year ago, I wrote about Volume 1 using a throwaway account, and now I can't remember the name or find the post. I'm sorry, guys. This will be long, but forgive me. I'm devastated, and I'm just rambling right now. My mom is a writer, and last year she self-published her book on Amazon, and basically it's a collection of journal entries from childhood to present. Book 1 was kid years until I was like 7 or 8. Book 1 detailed her abuse as a child, failed marriages, my birth, growing resentment over having to deal with husband and child. Lovely stuff. It was heartbreaking to read my mother's detailed descriptions of things she would do when she was upset. Withhold attention, affection, snap at me, yell, hide. I was never good enough for my mother, and her journal entries explained how she knew she was engaging in these hurtful behaviors but did not stop. Unlike Volume 1, which was announced to the heavens, and by the way, Mom, you're using a pseudonym. Why are you announcing this to the world? But anyway, this book was published with very little fanfare. In it, I go from a crappy 8-year-old to a crappy 20-year-old. Details are skewed, distorted, twisted, and sometimes there are outright lies. It's not just me. My mother attacks everyone in my family. Her parents, her husband that she's still married to. Everyone. It's shocking how much hate and vitriol this woman has, and I'm the main target. She's deeply unhappy with her life and has never been satisfied, so she lashes out in misery, from detailing my lazy eye, to my bitterness over her divorce, to the fact that I was adopted, to glasses. Everything is a weapon used against me. She attacked my kids, writing that I had them too young and too many. I have 3, and they are a curse. I love my kids more than anything and dedicated myself to being a better parent than she ever dreamed of being. On most days, I think I was successful. On other days, like today, I just feel awful. I was used to this when I lived with her, but I'm 40 now, mostly out of her reach, and this is the lowest of blows. Every feeling I had when I was a kid, every insecurity and fear and feeling of worthlessness is just flooding back, and I can't stand it. Confronting her or even going no contact will play into her status as a professional victim. If I write an unfavorable review or even call her out on her bullcrap, she'd still play the victim card. She doesn't cause problems. In her mind, they just happen to her. Help, Reddit, please. Then in the comments section, one user said, "It doesn't sound like her presence in your life has any redeeming qualities. Go no contact and don't look back. It might fit into her narrative as a victim, but she's going to do that regardless. You are trying to model healthy relationships for your children, and you will never be able to do that 100% until you remove your mother from your life. I am so sorry this happened, OP, and I also suggest therapy because this has to have effed up your mind." Then user 2 commented and said, "I remember OP's original post, and I believe the consensus was that she should cut her mother off, but she hasn't followed that advice, and here she is coming back with the exact same problem again. She is looking for a magic wand to make her mother love her, and as hard as it might be to swallow, that magic wand does not exist. OP needs to get into therapy and come to terms with the fact that she will never have a positive relationship with her mother, and that it would be best for her children and herself to never speak to her again. I think you're right. I think I've been chasing the idea that she can change, and with this latest volume, I realize it's impossible. I think it's time for me to go no contact. Thank you. And then finally, user 3 commented and said, OP, are you identified by name in this book? Does the book contain factually incorrect statements about you that could damage your reputation and or cause you demonstrable financial harm? If so, that's libel, which is major grounds for a lawsuit. If you suffer provable damages, such as loss of job, loss of clients if you own a business, etc. Well, my mom gave me a pseudonym as well. I thought about that, but other than damaging my reputation with friends of hers and our family, no one would know it's me. Update number 2. Hello everybody, I posted this rant about my mother a few months back. I received some wonderful advice from many of you and wanted to give a little update. I have been no contact with her since about a week after that last post. I sent her a brief email detailing the why of it all and said I don't want any contact except in the case of extreme emergency. She never responded. She emailed me once before Christmas to let me know she was mailing something to my kids. I responded only with their email addresses and phone numbers so she could contact them directly. I don't expect her to ever heal this rift. There is no magic wand to make her love me, and my mother will never recognize her own faults. I've done some therapy and a ton of soul-searching and realized that's okay. I don't need the negative in my life, and I'm better off without her. I spoke to my grandparents briefly about the situation, and they were so much more supportive than I could have hoped for. My grandma gives me the occasional update, but she's as done as I am. So, that's it. No drama, nothing except for a closed chapter in my life, and a lot less weight on my back. Much love, and thanks to all of you. Now here are some more relevant comments. User 1 said, why on earth would you give that woman your kids' contact info? She's only going to tell them all kinds of lies about you. I guarantee it. My kids are nearly grown, 17, 18, and 19. My mom lives in another state, and their contact with her was already limited. They have watched this unfold from the beginning, and while I didn't give them intimate details, they know enough. They've also had personal experiences with her. My older daughter confided in her when she was going through a really difficult time, and my mother swore to keep her secrets, then promptly turned around and told me everything. They're well aware of how she operates. Thank you for asking, though. And then finally, user 2 commented and said, as someone who has also lost parents to their selfishness and lack of love for me, I feel you, and I am really sorry. You can't be loved by the heartless. You're right, you can't. But that's not your fault, and I'm sorry you went through it too. So, that one comment after the second update really hit the nail on the head, didn't it? I kind of love it when people psychologically expose people and be like, okay, you're doing this because of X and Y and some trauma mixed in. And OP, had her come to Jesus moment and realized, oh, yeah, nothing's gonna change here. This is exactly the same as the first update, and I'm sure we've been in these scenarios or had a friend or somebody close to us who just keeps taking the advice but doesn't change. They probably know what they need to do, but they don't do it. Or they're told what they need to do and don't do it. But OP did it and, cut her mom out and just kept the email for emergency cases. And hopefully she doesn't corrupt the kids, but I'm willing to bet that she probably won't succeed. But anyway, good for OP because unfortunately, mom wasn't going to turn around. Mom wasn't going to improve. And it's better to just cut your losses at that point. Anyway, next story. Story number 2. I am 23F and my boyfriend is 26M. Am I wrong for wanting him to distance himself from his close female friend, 24F? So, my boyfriend Justin, 26M, and I, 23F, have been a couple for just over 7 months now, but started dating a couple of months before that. So all in all, I've known him less than a year, and I'm already head over heels for him, and I feel like I've known him forever. I know it's still our honeymoon phase, but I've genuinely never felt this strongly about another guy before, and have definitely never thought as long-term as I am thinking with him. Justin is confident, charismatic, passionate, and driven, intelligent, and emotionally mature, values his family, is especially kind to children and elderly people, and just has a presence that lights up the room. It also doesn't hurt that he's 6'1", handsome, and has a yummy body and is an amazing lover. Anyway, the only real problem in our relationship, from my point of view, is his friendship with Olivia, 24F, who he has known for 6 years since his first year of university. My boyfriend is smart with women, used to attention, and doesn't cross boundaries with them. The only time he comes close is with Olivia, though, and even then, it's mostly her initiating things. But the way she behaves around around him is honestly the #1 source of conflict in our relationship. I'm quite friendly with Justin's circle of friends now, and I hang out with them at least once per week, so things can be pretty uncomfortable for me. Here are some of the things that make me uncomfortable. 1. She is exactly my boyfriend's type. Not really her fault, I know, and I have seen a few girls that my boyfriend has been with from his social media, and they all look more or less like Olivia. She's 170 centimeters, about 5'8", athletically built, has cat eyes and a pouty mouth, and just gives off a sexy aura. I am 162 centimeters, 5'3", in shape, and have a decent face, but 1, it bothers me that I'm nothing close to Justin's type, and 2, that Olivia is his type. Continuing to number 2, Olivia has always been nice enough to me, but when I first met her, she gave me an eyebrows raised and was like, "Let's see how long you last" kind of look. I admit that I could be overthinking that one. 3, she's always finding excuses to touch Justin. An example is brushing food off of his clothes and face, "Hello, that's my job," or fixing his shirt collar. She also likes to give him back hugs. Once, she hugged him from behind, and I overheard her saying, "How come you never give me back hugs anymore?" And the way she said it was low and whispery and rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm 99% sure an objective passerby could have interpreted her tone as seductive. When I brought it up to Justin, all he said was like, "Yeah, that was weird, I guess." 4, she has this cute act that she does for Justin when he doesn't want to do something for her. Sometimes, this is probably weird in itself, she'll ask him to buy her something, like an ice cream, and then he says no, and then she'll stand in front of him and pout and make deery eyes. Or sometimes she just grabs him and pushes him towards whatever she wants, points to it, and does the cutesy act. 4, she greets him by saying, "Hey you," and then winking and pretend shooting him, which I find odd. 5, Justin only listens to Olivia. He's a pretty stubborn guy and doesn't really follow others, unless it's Olivia. One of the things that bothers me the most in this regard is an incident that happened in a club. Justin and I were drinking with his friends when another group of people got into an argument with some of Justin's guy friends. Justin tried to defuse the situation at first, but the other guys were extremely disrespectful, and he was on the verge of fighting 3 guys at once. I kept telling him to leave them alone, but he just wouldn't back down, even after the bartender threatened to call the police. Then Olivia walks over to him, pulls him by the arm, and yells at him, "Stop, you're acting stupid!" And she dragged him to the bar, and they were talking there alone for 15 minutes. I know I probably should have went and checked in on him, but I was pretty shocked and angry considering what just happened. One of Justin's friends noticed me watching and told me, "Don't feel bad, it's always been this way with them," which obviously made me feel worse. 6, yesterday we went to dinner with his friends. The day was pretty warm, so Justin was only wearing a t-shirt, but by the time we finished, it was windy and quite a bit colder. We decided to take a walk along the Riverwalk, and Olivia suddenly wrapped her cardigan around my boyfriend's shoulders. He started joking around and posing like a model before giving it back, but I kind of wish he would have just given it back to her right away. There are a lot of these kinds of instances where Olivia will do small caring things for him, things that a girlfriend does. 7, my woman's intuition just tells me that Olivia wants more from Justin than he's giving her. She's sarcastic and rude to him half the time because that's their dynamic / her personality. However, when he's not paying attention to her, I sometimes catch her stealing glances at him. Sometimes she looks smitten, sometimes she looks straight up lustful, and sometimes she looks sad. I think it's obvious she has feelings for him, but when I brought it up with my boyfriend, he told me that they were just close. And 8, there is much more to add, but I'm just going to end with this. I understand that some people are natural flirts, but Olivia doesn't act like this to any other guys in their group. Her personality is pretty strong. She's sarcastic and relentlessly teases them, but no touching. No cutesy act, none of the small thoughtful stuff, and definitely none of the misty-eyed gazes. Some of the guys even jokingly complain that they're jealous that she only acts like a girl to Justin. Continuing, yesterday after the cardigan thing when he just dropped me off, I asked him to talk because I've been growing more insecure about his friendship with Olivia. We talked in my apartment for around 1 hour about it and didn't really make any progress. Basically, he agreed not to meet Olivia alone, but he said that she was important to him, told me some things about how they helped each other get through university, and that he wanted her in his life. I tried to initiate sex with him after that, but he said he was tired and left. I cried after that and called my sister and talked to her about the situation, and she told me that since Justin hasn't done anything to break my trust, that I should continue trusting him, and that there's a reason he's with me and not Olivia. She also said that if he crosses the line, I need to be strong enough to leave him. I also called my best friend this morning. She, on the other hand, is convinced that Justin and Olivia are more than just close, and she thinks I need to give him an ultimatum: choose the friendship or the relationship. Basically, I'm at a loss for what to do now. I love Justin and really think we have a future together, but this friendship with Olivia is driving me crazy. Is this just jealousy and my insecurities, or do I really need to give my boyfriend an ultimatum? I really like him, but I don't know if I will ever be comfortable in this relationship as long as Olivia is a part of his life. Edit. Thank you all for your replies. I tried to respond to as many as possible. In reading your comments, my own post, and some self-reflecting, I realized that a lot of the issues have to do with my insecurities, fears about what could be happening or what may happen in the future. I don't know why it's been so hard for me to stop rationalizing these fears and accept that they aren't indicative of what is actually happening. That being said, though, I realized that a lot of the points of discomfort I felt are purely a result of my gut feelings. There are still several things that Olivia does with my boyfriend that are personally not okay with me. I understand that it was wrong of me to even entertain the thought of asking Justin to distance himself from her, but at the same time, if they really are that close and nothing farther than platonic feelings are being shared, I think that 1, my boyfriend shouldn't have a problem establishing, within reasons, boundaries with a female friend whose behavior makes his girlfriend uncomfortable, and that 2, that female friend should understand and respect those wishes. I understand that some of the things that bother me, like her cute act or some of her other affectionate gestures, might just be a part of her personality towards him, and that I'll probably just have to suck it up and deal with it. But for me, it's within reason for him to ask that she cut out the intimate physical stuff like the back hugs, grabbing his arms incessantly, brushing his hair and face, clothes, etc. Justin and I haven't talked much today, but I'm going to meet him later tonight and I will tell him exactly what I've written above. I'm not going to ask him to stop being friends with her, and I'm not going to ask her to distance himself from her. I'm also going to ask him to clarify some things for me, like the extent of their physical relationship, if there's any romantic history between them that I'm not aware of. Some people might have a problem with this, but I think that given the nature of their relationship and the fact that they see each other so often, he should be transparent about it. I think this conversation will help me decide whether a compromise can be made and I can learn to deal with their friendship healthily, or if I will have to do the hard thing and walk away, which I really don't want to do. Update. I met Justin the night after I added the edit to my original post, with the intentions of telling him that I was wrong for wanting him to distance himself from Olivia, but that I wanted 1, for him to ask that she tone down the physical intimacy, and 2, that he disclose the extent of their relationship in the past, such as how far their physical relationship has gone, if either of them have confessed romantic feelings, which was something I previously wondered about but always avoided asking him. Well, that talk didn't go as planned. At all. I thought he was going to be understanding of me and honest about his feelings, but he stonewalled me and was super rude and all around an a-hole to me. As soon as I brought up Olivia, he laughed and shook his head and asked me if I was really gonna do this crap again, and I tried my best not to get emotional and just explain my point of view. The whole time, he was leaning his head against the wall, didn't make eye contact, and was playing with his earrings. So when I asked him if he understood my feelings and was okay with what I was asking of him, he smiled and sarcastically said, "Of course, honey," with a fake tone. And he was extremely angry when I asked if they had hooked up before. And his exact words were, "You haven't even been my girlfriend for a year. If you think you're entitled to know every little detail from my past, go F yourself." And he walked out after saying that, and I cried. He'd never talked to me like that or expressed anger towards me before. I was shocked, hurt, and angry. Obviously, he was hiding something. I didn't know if something had happened between them or he had feelings for her or what, but I wanted to talk with him again, so I messaged him telling him I wasn't trying to make him mad, but that I feel like we needed to talk again. He didn't reply to my messages that night, and the next morning he still hadn't replied. I never thought that I would do this, but I sent Olivia a message asking to meet for a coffee, and surprisingly she answered almost immediately and agreed to meet in the afternoon. When I told her about my feelings about their relationship, how Justin had reacted the other night, and I straight up asked her if there were any romantic feelings between them, she admitted that she had feelings for Justin, but that it was complicated. She said that she loves him and hates him at the same time, and she told me that I should leave him, not because she wanted to be with him instead of me, but that it was because Justin has always been a player, has been charming and leaving girls for years, that she's waited for him to change, and that she knew she could never truly be happy staying by his side as a friend, that she should leave him too, but couldn't. I thought she might try to BS me, but she seemed very sincere when saying these things. I asked her what the extent of their relationship was like in the past, and she told me that basically she was attracted to Justin at first sight when they first met in university, but that Justin had a long-distance girlfriend at the time. Justin then eventually broke up with his long-distance girlfriend, and they got closer. Justin had some problems, she wouldn't tell me what they were, and that he consoled to her about them. This led to them kissing one night and having sex, and that was her first time. She then confessed feelings to Justin, but he said he didn't want their friendship to be affected if the relationship didn't work out. They were on and off friends with benefits throughout college, and Justin had a handful of short-lived relationships during that time, and he cheated on one of his girlfriends with Olivia. She claimed at this point that they haven't had sex since he's been in a relationship with me, but I don't know what to believe. Then when they graduated, their friend group rented a vacation pension on an island one night, and their friend Ashley walks in on them in the bathroom. Justin told Ashley that it was a drunk mistake, and Olivia was extremely hurt and refused to see or speak to Justin for weeks. After being ignored, Justin apologizes to her, tells her he has feelings for her, and they go on a few secret dates, but Justin never commits to a relationship, and then backtracks and says he's confused about his feelings and not ready for anything serious. From that point on, they went back to being friends with benefits until Justin met me. I'm a little confused and skeptical as to why she's told me all of this, so I ask if she has any proof, and she searches chat logs and shows me multiple messages of him booty calling her, and she starts getting emotional and tells me that Justin has amazing qualities, but that he has some deep personal issues that he refuses to work on that prevents him from being a good partner right now. I asked her what she meant, but she wouldn't tell me, and I could tell that she cares a lot about him. She's been single this whole time. There were likely many opportunities for her to end up in a happy relationship, but she turned a blind eye to them all for Justin, who can't even admit that he has feelings for her. Even though I didn't like some of the things that she did before, I actually sympathize with her a lot. It sounds like Justin put her through a ton of crap, given her false hope and taken it away, and she's always stayed by him for whatever reason. Afterwards, she tells me not to worry about throwing her under the bus because she was going to tell Justin herself that she told me about them, and she said she wanted him to be mad at her. Later that night, Justin called me trying to explain himself to me, but I broke up with him. I was crying on the phone, and I really didn't want to break up, but I knew it was the right thing for me to do. Regardless of what was true or false about his past, it was just too much drama for me to handle, and the way he reacted to me when I had originally wanted to talk to him scared me. He didn't try to fight with me or ask me to stay. We just kind of sat in silence on the phone for a while before hanging up. It's been about 2 weeks since then, and I know that Justin was probably a bad boy, and it was only a matter of time before he broke my heart, but I feel devastated. I'm just starting to be able to get back into my normal routines, but even then, sometimes it's just so hard to get out of bed. I think about Justin every day. It's like the more I'm away from him, the more I think about the good things we had together. I miss his smell, his laugh, his touch, just being able to be with him whenever I want. Part of me hoped he would reach out to me, but he hasn't. I met Olivia last week, and she told me that Justin wasn't talking to her anymore, and that it was probably a good time for her to move on from him. My ass. Last night, I saw Olivia uploaded a coupley picture of her and Justin on Instagram. They were in a nightclub or some dark place, and he had his arm wrapped around her with a drink in that hand, and she was sipping from the straw. I know it was a mistake not to block and unfollow Justin and his friends, and after I saw that, I blocked and unfollowed them all. That was kind of what inspired me to post an update. I don't know if Olivia played me or if Justin is working his magic on her again, but I just feel crappy all around. It hurts, but I know these people would have been toxic for me if I had stayed with them. It just hurts so much more than I had ever imagined.
Fantastic story, okay? I just have to say it. A+ tier. Good plot twist there with Olivia's motives, and it's open to interpretation. Was she serious? Was she not serious? Has she put herself in an abusive relationship with Justin? I had a feeling it was going to end something like this. We've gotten these stories before. I didn't feel like that this story was going to end with them together, especially with the ages. Again, I've said this a few times. This just feels like the plights of a younger person, not to mitigate what young people go through, but I was like, baby girl, you might be a little blind to this because Justin sounds like a player, and he was. surprise. But I have to super applaud OP for breaking up with him. She got the info and said, this is too much drama for me. There was no fourth update. There was no fifth update. She didn't say, this is probably my final update, and made another update. She said, I did it. They're gone. They're blocked. They're removed. This is too much for me, and I know long term this would be bad for me. It hurts now, but I know it would be worse. So I applaud OP, all right? Being more mature at 23 than some people are in their 40s. We've read these stories. But anyway, next story.
Story number 3. My boyfriend did not give me the first slice of cake. I am 20F and I am from Brazil, and here it is tradition that in a birthday party, the person whose birthday is being celebrated gives the first slice of cake to their favorite person after everyone sings the birthday song. This week was my boyfriend's 24M birthday, and he had 3 celebrations, one with his birth family, one with his adoptive family, and one with his friends, which was a surprise picnic that I planned and organized. He has had a very difficult life, and his moms are really important to him as the adoptive mom saved him from starving as a kid and raised him, giving him a chance at life. And his birth mom battled very hard against poverty all her life, struggling and fighting to keep her kids alive and well. So, of course, I never expect him to give me the first slice of cake at the family celebrations. But then there was the picnic. I spent weeks planning and reaching out to all his childhood friends, making sure that they would come. I went to bed at 2 a.m. the night before making him his favorite cake. I spent a crap ton of money with food, drinks, and gifts. And I did not do it because of the first slice, of course, but at all times I couldn't help but think, now it's my turn. Turns out it was not. He has a best friend of many years. She and him are like brother and sister. They went through a lot of crap together, like her losing her mom, him not having food to eat at home as a teen, and even though they are so close, they don't get the chance to see each other very often now, as they are both very busy with life and all of its crap. So of course, he took the chance to show her some appreciation. She was so happy, and of course, I understood the situation. He sees me every day, and has the chance to honor me almost daily. He always makes me feel really loved and all, and he can't do that with her. Also, I understand he wanted to show her that him having a relationship does not mean that she is not his sister anymore, a priority in that sense. I am not jealous because I know there is nothing romantic between them. She is pretty gay and polyamorous, and he is the most monogamous guy in the world, and he worships me. But I couldn't help but feel at least a bit, I don't know, do I need to explain? Maybe disappointed? Maybe unappreciated? I feel like I can never be the most important person in the room. We always talk about getting married. We are each other's lives. And still, do you understand? And also, he did this in front of everyone, in front of all of our mutual friends who don't really know her, and all she means to him, so I also felt kind of embarrassed. I'm just venting here, but I want to go home and cry a bit. I know I'm being childish, but I guess I will keep it that way for now. Update. Hi everyone, thank you all for the kind comments. Me and my boyfriend have very different energy spans, so I usually leave hangouts a lot earlier than him, which is what happened today. So I left, posted the story on Reddit, took a shower, and started to paint my nails. And about 3 hours after I left, my boyfriend calls me, and I pick up and he is sobbing. Notice he does not have Reddit and he does not speak English, so he didn't know about the post, and I had not talked about my feelings with him yet. So he calls me absolutely pouring, saying he was going home and he has had the best day of his life, that he loves me so much for doing this for him, and he spends the next 15 minutes talking between sobs about all the effort I put into the birthday celebration, thanking me for every single one of the things I did. Then he mentioned the cake slice, and he said to me that throughout his entire life, because he has always had birthdays in his mom's houses, he had never given a first slice to his best friend, who went through all of that with him, and that me being empathetic enough to let him do that was honestly one of the most special things I had ever done for him. He told me that she had been going through some very important stuff, and he was not around ever because of work in college, and she was feeling very left behind because of this, which is a huge thing since they are basically brother and sister. So the cake made her cry so much. It was the first time he had ever done this, and she finally felt like he had not forgotten about her. And then, because I made that much effort for him, he asked me to rest, and he told me that this next week was going to be entirely for him to show me appreciation. He asked me to please for once not sabotage him showing me love and pampering me, because I feel like I don't deserve it. Because he was going to take his savings to take me out and spend this week giving me surprises. And I know him well enough to expect some love notes, him showing up to surprise me at my place, maybe even a song written for me. He also invited me to spend the weekend at his place, just the two of us. He lives with his family and they are all going to the beach, leaving the house empty so that he can cook me my favorite dinner and give me one of his hour-long full body massages. They're my favorites. Then, after he said all of that, I took the opportunity to tell him about how I felt today. He listened quietly, and when I was finished, he apologized, saying that he did not realize that was how I felt, that was not his intention. He just thought that did not mean as much to me as it would have meant for his best friend, so he decided to honor her that way, and then honor me differently with my Princess Week, but he told me how he understood how I felt, and that he was sorry anyway. We talked a bit more, but we got over the stuff pretty quickly, and it all ended with us gossiping about the day, and because two friends of ours who don't really get along well apparently went back home together, and half drunk after I left, so I don't know, I love gossip. But anyway, friends, I suppose that's my update. Maybe this is the day that Reddit realizes that emotions are complicated and life is too, which is why small moments do not define an entire relationship or someone's feelings. How we react to the situation and deal with it does. I love my boyfriend, and he loves me a lot too. And that does not mean that he does not have any found family beyond me. That also does not mean I'm not allowed to feel sad. I have the right to feel what I feel and to be welcomed in that feeling, being validated. I will marry this man, mark my words.
So this was also a great story and a slightly emotional one, but it was like the good version of the previous story in a way. But I didn't really pick up on too much negativity. When I first read the title, I kind of laughed because I was like, what is going on here? But there's a cultural aspect involved, and we have to remember that sometimes with these stories. And OP employed nuance and said, hey, Reddit, that exists, by the way, wink, wink. Because, sometimes these comments do not pick up on that. And also, I think OP managed her emotions here almost flawlessly, recognizing the situation with the moms and the best friend and still saying, yes, I understand these things and I recognize these things, but I still feel sad. And I'm allowed to feel that. And she doesn't overlook her emotions or negate it or drink it away or something. So just great maturity here today, folks. I love it. Okay, I hope that's the thing. Let's see if it picks up in the next story or not. Anyway, next story.
Story number 4. My ex-girlfriend opened up 2 credit cards in my name after we broke up. She ran up about $7,500 in debt, mainly shopping at Nordstrom and Macy's, and her current boyfriend is now threatening me. My ex and I broke up a little more than a year ago. We lived together for a couple of years, and I know she would have had access to my financial information. When we broke up, I moved out of the house we were renting, and I thought I had everything of mine. But back in February, when I was doing my taxes, I realized I could not find my folder with my previous year's tax returns anywhere. I assumed it got lost in the move and didn't think anything else of it. Well, last Friday, I got served for a lawsuit to the tune of over $5,000 for a defaulted credit card. When I went in and actually pulled my credit, I saw that card had been defaulted since May, and there was another one which had been closed since June for about $2,500. Seeing as I had no knowledge about this, I immediately disputed both of the accounts on all 3 of the Bureau's websites. I was able to talk with someone for one of the cards, and they said it was opened in January, well after I had moved out of my old house, and the cards were sent there. I received the statements from the one card, and it was probably 80% Nordstrom's and Macy's, 2 of the stores my ex loved shopping at. Pretty sure she was the one who opened the accounts and probably used my social security number from the old tax returns. I called my ex about it, and she denied everything, even when I told her that eventually if she had anything shipped to the house using a stolen credit card, she's going to get found out. She flipped and started screaming at me, saying I can't seriously accuse her of anything and to never talk to her again. About 20 minutes later, I get a call from a blocked number. It was her boyfriend, threatening to make my life a living hell unless I stopped harassing her by claiming she stole my identity. He hung up, but I was a bit shaken up about it, and I can see he's got some serious felonies just by looking up the public records on the county website. I'm kind of stuck here. I'm opening myself up to retaliation if I go forward with anything from someone who has charges of aggravated arson and aggravated discharge of a firearm, in addition to a few battery charges. I just can't not do anything, though. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Then in the comments section, one user said,
OP, this is all information you can find in this subreddit and others. 1. Call the police. You are the victim of identity theft, plain and simple. It doesn't matter who did it or what your relationship is to them. They broke the law, and now they have to face the consequences of their actions. 2. Freeze your credit. You want to make sure it doesn't happen again. Take the proactive route of freezing your credit. 3. Monitor and track your credit. You need to be alerted if anyone tries opening a line of credit in your name. 4. Warn anyone else who might be a victim. This includes family members or anyone else whose social security number might be compromised by the thief. And 5. Take the police report to the credit bureaus. Give them the report number when you dispute all of the accounts. Most of the time, that will be enough for them to take the accounts off of your credit. It's on the creditors themselves to prove the accounts are legitimately yours, and the bureaus aren't going to get in the middle of it. A police report goes a long way in clearing up your credit. But yeah, OP, don't take identity theft lying down, even if it's someone close to you. If you let them get away with it, get ready for 5 to 10 years of bad credit, collection agencies coming after you, lawsuits, etc. For this specific case, you need to go to the police, like now. This guy seems like an incredibly violent person. I would get a restraining order as soon as possible. Does he know where you live? I would also not contact your ex at all about anything else. Let it all go through the court system.
Thank you for your comment. I plan on calling the police. I was just kind of freaked out about the whole situation. How do I get the police report to the credit companies? And then user 2 replied and said,
file a police report for the fraud. Contact the lenders and provide the police report number and jurisdiction. Let the police and bank sort it out. Provide all that info to the lawyers that filed the suit and bring it all to court. Do not skip a court date.
Update. I followed the advice in the comments and went to the police. Quick and painless process. I was in and out in maybe 30 minutes with the report number. I never received another call from my ex or her boyfriend. I gave the report number to the credit card companies and the credit bureaus. I was told I didn't have to do anything else at that point, but to show up to the court date for the lawsuit. I learned through a mutual friend today, though, that my ex was arrested this morning. Apparently, the county put out a warrant for her last week, pulled her over on the way to work. It looks like she was charged and released pretty quickly. Also, I learned my ex and the boyfriend who threatened me are no longer together. I don't think I have to worry about him anymore. The court date for the lawsuit is later this month, but everything has already fallen off of my report. My score has gone up probably 200 points. I'm still going to the court date just to make sure everything is good, but it's looking like all good news from here on out.
Now here are some more relevant comments. User 1 said, that is awesome news, OP. Your story will also serve as inspiration for others to pursue justice when they've been wronged.
And then finally, user 2 commented and said,
OP, make sure you put a freeze on your social security number with all 3 credit bureaus, if you haven't done so already.
Well, folks, just like Michael Cole said after Brock Lesnar pinned The Undertaker, the streak's over.
We had 2 consecutive stories of people who were a bit emotional, going through something, but also using their heads. And I thought we were going to have it here again. I thought we were going to go 3 for 3, but that's not the case. Because we have a guy who has discharged his weapon a couple of times in a beer parking lot to impress a broad, his words, not mine, and a guy who also burnt down a couple of houses. So I feel like any sanity has gone out the window. But you know what? On the good side, OP's credit score has gone up. The imaginary numbers that allow him to buy a house and live, like a normal citizen are back in good standing. I hate credit. Anyway, next story.
Story number 5. Will I be the a-hole for telling my son to not wear his favorite jacket anymore because it looks gay? I am a single dad to my son, Oliver 10M. He's with me most of the time and sees his mom every other weekend. He's an awesome kid, creative, full of energy, and he's got his own sense of style that's pretty unique. He loves bright colors, nail polish, and clothes that some people might think are more girly. If I'm honest, I think Oliver might be gay, and I'm totally cool with that. I've always made it clear that whoever he turns out to be, I will 100% support him. Because of how he dresses and acts, Oliver's had a really tough time with other kids. He got bullied so badly at his old school that I ended up pulling him out and homeschooling him. The school wasn't helpful at all, and it was heartbreaking to see him go through that. He has struggled to make friends, and it kills me to see him feel so alone. Now he's starting school back in September, and he's really excited about it. But recently, we were at a cousin's birthday party, and Oliver wore his favorite jacket, which is a bright pink, sparkly one that he loves. Some of the other kids started picking on him, saying he looked gay, and I stepped in and got the kids to apologize, but it ruined the day for Oliver, and I'm worried about how things will go when he's back at school. I've been thinking about whether I should speak to Oliver about maybe toning it down a bit, especially when he's around new people, not because I want him to change who he is, but because I hate seeing him get hurt and feel like an outcast. I don't want him to feel like he has to hide who he is, but I also don't want him to be picked on or excluded because of it. But then I feel like a complete a-hole for even thinking about this. I don't want him to think that I'm ashamed of him or that he has to conform to be accepted. I want him to feel free to be himself, but I'm also scared of him being hurt by others who don't get it. So, will I be the a-hole if I spoke to Oliver about maybe being a bit more low-key with his style? Now, here are some relevant comments. User 1 said,
don't do it, OP. Kids will still bully him, and he will remember that it was you that deterred him from expressing himself. Trust me, the same thing occurred in our house. I was trying to keep him from being bullied, but my child felt as though I didn't accept him and that he needed to pretend he was something he wasn't. If he's he's gay, if he's straight, let him be himself and tell him as long as he likes his clothes, that's all that matters. Sincerely, the mom of an amazing queer kid.
Thank you for your comment, and I get that, but at the same time, it is so heartbreaking seeing the same thing happen to him over and over and over again. Then user 2 commented and said,
Jesus, where do you live? Most kids don't care about this kind of thing these days.
I live in the West Midlands of England, and honestly, I don't think your point about most kids not caring is at all accurate. I see it every day. And then finally, user 3 commented and said,
Do not dull his shine because other people don't understand him. I understand it may be coming from a place of protection, but it needs to be addressed with the potential aggressors, not with forcing your son to change who he is.
Okay, I see your point, but when you can't do anything more with potential aggressors, I have done and will continue to do everything I can, but sadly, I can't literally watch his back 24/7, even though I would if I could. Anytime he has a comment made to him, he breaks his little heart, and it is so devastating seeing him go through that again and again. Update. Hey everybody, it's been about 26 days since my original post, and I thought I would give an update now that Oliver has had his first week back at school. I can happily say that so far, things are going much better than I had hoped for. Over the summer, Oliver and I had a really important heart-to-heart. I sat him down and told him just how incredibly proud I am of the person he is becoming, and I made sure he knew that there is absolutely nothing he could ever do that would change the way I see him or make me love him any less. Honestly, it was a bit emotional, and even I got a bit choked up. I told him that if wearing his favorite jacket, the one that's caused some hurt before, made him happy, I would stand behind him 100%. But I also wanted to make sure he was prepared. I explained that while I will always be there for him, I can't always be around to protect him, and he might have to stand up for himself if kids make fun of him. I made it clear that this doesn't mean he should change anything about who he is, but that he needs to be ready to handle it if anyone says anything cruel. Oliver understood, and we spent the summer coming up with some playful comebacks together. He really wanted to take the jacket with him to school, so we made it a bit of a project, imagining the kind of things kids would say to him and crafting witty replies that he could fire back with. It was actually pretty fun, and I think it helped him feel more confident about it. Now back to school. His new teacher knows all about his past struggles with bullying, and she's been amazing. She's keeping a close eye on things and making sure he feels safe and comfortable. It has made such a difference already, and Oliver's first week couldn't have gone any better. He's even made a friend, a boy named Sam, and they've really hit it off. They're planning to meet up tomorrow at the Wacky Warehouse, and Oliver can't stop talking about it. It's been a long time since I've seen him this excited about spending time with someone his age, and I know it's still early days, but seeing him come home happy and smiling each day has been such a relief. Thanks to everyone who gave advice and encouragement on my original post. I really took a lot of it to heart, and I think it made a big difference in how I approached all of this. Update number 2. Hey there, I just wanted to hop on and give a small update about Oliver's playdate over the weekend. Firstly, when Oliver was getting ready, he wanted to wear all his flamboyant clothes. He asked me if I thought it was a good idea, and his friend had seen him in his jacket, but he was a little worried about how he would react to the full Oliver. I told him to wear whatever he wanted, and if this friend was worth being friends with, they would accept him for exactly how he is, and that made Oliver smile. He wore his full outfit, and when we were walking in, I could feel Oliver getting a bit nervous. He was bullied so much at his last school for how he was, so I understood why. I held his hand tight and gave it 2 squeezes. This means I love you, something I learned to teach him from Reddit actually. The friend's dad was with him and he looked at Oliver and gave a little curious look, but apart from that it was fine. The boy said he loved Oliver's clothes, and they spent about 4 hours playing, and we ended up eating together. On the way home, I told Oliver how proud I am of the little man he is, and I'm so proud how he is so willing to be himself, and so brave to continue despite any backlash he gets. I love him so much. So this will be my final update on this account. I don't know if I will ever show you these posts, Oliver, but maybe in a few years when you're older so we can laugh about how worried I was about you. Your dad is so proud of you, and I think you're the most amazing person in the whole world, even when you drive me absolutely nuts. I'm so lucky I get to be your father, and I am so lucky that you were in my life. I love you. So, another story where the waterworks go off and the onions start being cut and all that, but I really liked this story. It was very sweet. I can sorta kinda relate to it. I'm not super flamboyant or anything, but I like to dress with some color in my outfits and a little bit of pizzazz, and I know what it feels like to, feel a little out there, especially as a kid.
I was weird, and I still am weird, but I've accepted it. But when you're a kid, you don't know that. You just think you're abnormal and weird. I'm accepting and weird. See, there's a difference there. But anyway, I'm glad that OP was very considerate, but also, didn't pull his punches and just painted it and said, like, hey, be yourself, but also be prepared for people who don't understand it. And I think that's the most important part. And then he lets Oliver make his decision. And you know what? And now he's got a good friend. Anyway, next story.
Story number 6. I just found out that my husband fabricated his entire life. Can I get an annulment? And how do I get him out? I met my husband 4 years ago, just before moving from Philadelphia to Georgia. Shortly after my move, he followed me and we fell in love. We lived together from 2015 onward, and in mid-November 2018, we married. Today, I discovered that virtually everything he has ever told me or demonstrated about his life was a complete fabrication, from specific medical issues to jobs, past and present, to education, to family relationships, to claim that his first language was not English, to phone conversations that never happened to people he knows too. If you can think it, he has lied about it. We live together, but my name is on the lease and I hold the title on both of our cars. He has some belongings in our home, but most of it has been purchased with money that I have earned over our 4 years together, plus money from my personal savings account. I am totally open to letting him walk with all of his stuff and even signing the older car to him. After a quick internet search, it looks like I might have grounds for an annulment of my marriage on the basis of being seriously misled. Do I? What will I need to be able to prove in order to make it work? And is there anything else I need to keep in mind to aim for an annulment instead of divorce? He is mentally ill, though quite differently than what I was led to believe, and receives SSDI each month, but that is nowhere near enough for him to live on. What is the legal way to get him out of my house and life with minimal risk, damage, and cost to me? Also, do I look for a divorce lawyer in this situation? Sorry if that's a dumb question. And also, how does custody of pets work? We have 2 kittens that we got in July, and I can't imagine separating them. I also can't imagine him being able to take care of them once we're separated, but I don't know if that matters. Edit. I've had a lot of people ask questions about what, specifically, the man in question lied about. Here's a partial list. 1. That he went to school in Britain, met his ex-wife there, and lived there for about 20 years before returning to the US. That he went to the bank and tried to close out our joint account, but couldn't do it because he wasn't an authorized singer on the account. A full list of emergency medical information, including doctors' names and phone numbers, and a list of medications that he was or wasn't on. That his grown kids stole about $2,000 from him and kicked him out of his own house. That he had managed to scrap together enough money to buy a house, but then his property tax increased and he ended up losing the house in a totally unfair turn of events. It turns out he'd so egregiously messed up his family finances that his ex-wife ended up losing the home she grew up in. That his father had abused him horribly as a kid, and that his mom had stood by and let it happen. That his aunt and uncle were the only relatives who'd really cared for him, and his uncle had died suddenly of a heart attack, right before we really got serious. And his uncle's still alive and well, by the way. That he'd been in Berlin when the wall came down. That he was harassed at the grocery store by some random lady that didn't like the way he looked. That he grew up speaking Polish as a first language. That he walked and talked in his sleep, in his first language in Polish, as a side effect of the medication that he was or wasn't on. That his dad was a woodworker and was making furniture for us. That his brother worked for DARPA. That his aunt was a nun. That a nurse at the hospital had told him some things about my dad's case that we needed to attend to. That he had a specific job with a host of people he worked with on a regular basis. And all the stories he told me on a nearly daily basis about those people. That his boss had bought him the fancy new watch he had on his wrist. That Mr. Park, the camera repair guy, did work on his cameras for free at a discount. Countless lies about money spent or refunds unavailable for all kinds of reasons. That his counselor had actually said exactly what I just said when they'd talked about it too. This happened over and over again. That he was bipolar and borderline schizophrenic, but well-controlled and committed to taking his meds. That he was feeling down at a given time. That he'd posted a sign at work to collect donations for a cause I cared about, and now the only problem was finding a truck big enough to transport it all. This was the lie that led to the end. That he'd met the Queen. That he'd been commissioned to make artwork for Harry and Meghan, and a special concierge for the Queen had to come for tea to pick it up. That he got shot at in this bad neighborhood one time. That a candidate in a local election campaign had some specific and objectionable position. That he'd talked to so-and-so and such had happened, and isn't that awesome, awful, or stupid, or tremendous. That some awful person had hit the front of our car in the parking lot and never left a note. But it's okay because he filed a report with the cops who won't be able to do anything anyway. That some person had bought his artwork, but also the payment got screwed up. that his ex-wife had cheated on him continuously, that he'd done some activity on any random day, that he'd been asked to interview for jobs, that he'd messed up his knee and went to get it fixed, but his insurance didn't cover it, so he had to pull money out to pay for it, that he had medical insurance, that he'd been on the highway in Britain and his motorcycle broke down. On his way to get help, he was hit by a car, and that's how his leg got messed up, that he'd looked for places to live after I was moving out, but he couldn't find anything, and so he needed to stay with me to avoid homelessness, that he needed our cats to keep him in a good mental space, that he'd actually broken a rib in that car accident that we'd just had, but don't worry, he'd be okay, that some FBI agents had interviewed him because Trump, that he had money pending with some lawsuits in Pennsylvania, but also who knows if or when that will appear because wouldn't you know it, the entire law had been busted for I forget what, and that he'd divorced his wife many years before he met me, and he said and lied that he loved me. Update. Well, it's been a little bit over a year since I turned to this community as my life fell rather dramatically to pieces around me. My original post didn't get a ton of attention, but the replies I received helped me tremendously, and seeing where I am a year later may also provide some help for those going through their own crisis. In particular, you helped me construct my initial list of immediate to-do items and put me on the right track to figure out how to extricate myself from the relationship. The day I first posted here was the day I found out that my then husband had lied and fabricated most of what I knew about him. Other things I did that day included teaching a class to 200 undergrads about 15 minutes after I found out for sure, and kicking off a day-and-a-half-long job interview for the next stage in my career, a job in which I somehow landed. What unfolded over the following 3 months can really only be described as me living my way through my own version of a Lifetime movie. At some point, I moved into an extended stay hotel, and as time passed, I learned about the depths and breadths of the lies and deceit he'd used to both control me and get what he wanted, and the lengths he would go to try and get his grip back on what he'd successfully manipulated his way through for about 4 years. What I know now, and what I'm kind of glad I didn't really know then, was that I wasn't actually as safe with him as I thought I was. So I'm thankful I managed to get out with only psychological, emotional, and financial burden and no physical trauma. About 2.5 months later, I successfully had my marriage annulled on the basis of fraudulent coercion to marry, and I ended up doing the necessary research and filing the paperwork myself, which was not an easy task, but was both cheaper and faster than it was going to be if I hired a lawyer. A few weeks after the annulment, I moved my belongings out of our apartment and moved to a new city and my new job. Without him, but with the kittens. As of late June, I finally had him convinced that contacting me was pointless because he wasn't getting me back. And so I've largely been free to recover from the trauma and crisis mode I lived in for about 3 months. One of the things I learned from all of this is how incredibly difficult it is to get out of a relationship in a situation like this. Besides the obvious difficulty of navigating the legal system and the cost associated with it, there's the cognitive dissonance of constantly trying to remember to relate to that other person in light of the new information you've found out about them. It really and truly took every life skill and tremendous support of my family and friends network to get out in one piece, more or less. And even still, the road to recovery and a return to thriving is a long one. So, thanks to those who helped me back on that terrible day in January 2019. And if you know someone who is going through something like this, please offer whatever you can in support, because they definitely need it. And then finally, in the comments section, Opie elaborated on how all the lies unraveled and said, his lies and fabrications started before we met, and were on a rather large scale. Ultimately, things fell apart because he had made too many promises he couldn't keep. I had questions in the past, but had managed to move past them. This time, it was just too much, and I asked him for evidence. I felt absolutely terrible, but I wanted a picture of something just to allay my fears. He provided a picture, but there was a small element that didn't quite fit. Again, feeling like a terrible person, I did a reverse image search and discovered it wasn't his picture. This led to more lies, as he quickly fabricated new layers to make the things I had found out more palatable. But he took a route that meant there were questions about what was true and what he had imagined. That led to me pulling at some threads in an attempt to help him put some pieces together. I know. And in the process, I reached out to some people who were supposedly part of his life, and everything began to tumble in on itself. After a few days, I had a more complete story, and that was it. Except it took quite a while to consistently remember that he was not the person I thought he was. All told, I think it was about 6 months to come to terms with it. And even now, there are occasional moments where I have to explicitly remind myself that he's not actually the person I thought he was, but is in fact actually Sir Turdface the Undesirable.
Okay, so I thought it was just a few lies, but then we spent, 1 to 3 minutes just reading off some, not all of the lies that were provided to her. And like, he's been shot, his kids left him, his dad was abusive, he broke his leg, car accident, fraud, and the government and paintings for the queen. And I'm thinking, you fell for that? Some of that stuff is plausible. Some of that's believable. I feel like if you meet enough people, everyone's got a story or two that makes you go, oh, wow, really? I wouldn't believe that about you. But this guy seems to have 50. All right, I'm not hating on OP, but like, if I was in her shoes after what is going on with your life event number 5, I'd be like, okay, something's odd here. You're saying you painted for the queen and you're not getting money from this lawsuit and you were shot at and your kids and just, I don't know. Ultimately, OP's out, but I'm like, how do you believe all of that? Like, all of that? How do you believe that? I don't know. But anyway, next story.
Story number 7. Am I the a-hole for hiding my boyfriend's anime body pillow while my parents were visiting? My boyfriend M32 and I F27 have been together for a year. He's only met my parents once over the holidays last year because they live pretty far away. They've been visiting this past week, and since he and I just moved in together, they were excited to see our new place and get to know my boyfriend a little more. We have an extra bedroom, and this has become my boyfriend's gaming room for the most part, but we agreed when guests come over, it would be a second bedroom. He really likes video games and anime, in particular, so he has a lot of toys and artwork that he's collected over the years from different games and such. One thing he has is his anime body pillow that features a sexy anime girl on it. He also has a mouse pad for his gaming computer that resembles a busty anime girl. Before my parents came over, I asked him to take down his toys and stuff so they could be comfortable. I was upset to see that he left the body pillow and the mouse pad in place. I don't really feel comfortable with either item, but he's really into anime, so I've always kind of left it alone. But I absolutely didn't think it was appropriate to leave it in there when my parents would be staying over. I took the cover off the body pillow and put the pillow in the closet, and I put the mouse pad in a drawer in our room. When my parents arrived and we showed them to their room, my boyfriend noticed the missing pillow and mouse pad. Later, when we were in bed, he brought it up to me and asked why I hid them. I told him I didn't think my parents would feel comfortable with those things in the bedroom, and when they leave, we can put them back. My boyfriend got really upset, and he told me that he feels like I'm ashamed of his interest in anime, and he said he spent his whole life feeling like people thinks he's weird for being into anime, and he didn't expect his own girlfriend to be just like everyone else. And the next day, I noticed him taking some of his manga books off of our bookshelf and putting them into a box. I asked him why, and he said something like, "I'm putting them away so you don't have to look at them anymore." I feel really bad. I feel like I hurt him, but I just really didn't think my parents would feel comfortable sleeping in a room with those items. But now he's just acting so distant and cold, and he's not really engaging with my parents at all. They keep asking me what's wrong, and I don't know what to say. So, am I the a-hole? Then in the comments section, one user said,
There's a huge difference between anime and video game decorations and sexualized anime content. A busty mousepad and a sexy body pillow would most likely make anyone feel uncomfortable. I get it that it's his space too, but I think a small amount of compromise for a limited time isn't a problem at all. You might see it as you being embarrassed of his interests, but the reality is most people aren't comfortable with sexualized decor. It's not about anime at all. Not the a-hole. He really needs to have more consideration for others.
That is exactly my feelings too. There's other stuff in the room that's anime and gaming related that was left up, but it was the more sexual stuff. I didn't feel comfortable leaving it out for my parents. Update. Thank you all for the responses, and sorry it took me a few days to update. I was waiting for my parents to leave so I could talk to my boyfriend about all of this. I read through all of the comments and it kind of validated something I was already feeling. Sexual decor aside, the way he acted the next day when he was putting the books away really bothered me. I ended up explaining the situation to my parents, and they weren't exactly thrilled by his reaction either. I got the feeling after this trip that they don't really approve of him, which is neither here nor there. I'm 27 and I'm old enough to make my own choices, but above everything else, my parents mean a lot to me. I never get to see them, and it was important to me that my boyfriend would be present and treat them well while they were here. After they left, I drove them to the airport and my boyfriend refused to come, and I came back from the airport and found a couple of trash bags outside the door. Turns out that once I left, my boyfriend started throwing all of his anime things into these bags. I asked him why, and he said something along the lines as before that clearly his interests weren't welcome in my home and he would keep them in his car until he figured out what to do with them. I kinda snapped. I'd been keeping it together all week for my parents, but I had enough at this point. I told him I never asked him to get rid of his anime stuff, just that it wasn't appropriate for my parents while they were staying with us. I told him this reaction is unfair and he's being manipulative. I told him that this week was supposed to be about him getting to know my parents, but he was too fixated on this anime issue to even spend any real time with them. He then called me manipulative for making him believe that I was cool with his love for anime for the past year when I was clearly ashamed of it. He also said he didn't want to be a part of a family that doesn't appreciate anime? We went back and forth for a while, and then I told him we needed space. I wasn't even really planning that, but it came out and it just felt like the right thing for me. Well, he then started crying a lot and apologizing and immediately trying to take back what he said, but I was just done at this point. He left eventually, and now I'm here in this apartment alone. Well, with the mouse pad and potty pillow, he left those behind. Anyway, I don't really know if we're broken up officially or what, but it seems to be heading that way. I'm just feeling awful, and I almost wish this all happened before my parents visited, because I feel like it tainted the whole trip. But yeah, thanks for the replies, guys, and for helping me open my eyes a bit.
This guy, man, is such a weenie. What a loser. Like, I hate to say it, all right? This is not in my daily lexicon, but this is such beta behavior. Oh, you don't appreciate anime and you don't like when I have this. No, bro, shut up, man. You think people are attracted to that? Like, I don't think a woman is attracted to that. I don't think as a man you're attracted to that. I don't want to be friends with someone, like, with that behavior. You don't appreciate anime. Bro, I don't appreciate your childish behavior. Let's have an adult conversation. Do you think I want mom and dad sleeping on Hatsune Miku with her big boobies jiggling out? No, okay? Just, come on, use some common sense. There's anime lovers, and then there's weebs, and then there's super weebs. This guy is super weeb, okay? This guy won't watch anything live action. If it doesn't have an outline, this guy won't watch it. If it's not starting in Japanese of origin, then he won't watch it. I hate this guy, all right? And if I saw him on Fortnite, I would emote on his body. Anyway, next story.
Story number 9. Am I the a-hole for ruining my friend's vacation? I, F38, just got back from a vacation with two of my longtime friends, Kate, F40, and Mary, F38. I've known them both since university, and we've always been close. The three of us had been planning this trip for Bali for a few months now, along with our husbands and their kids. They both have children under 5, while my husband Jake, M45, and I are child-free. We agreed to split the cost of a 4-bedroom villa 3 ways, and everything seemed fine at first. Jake and I arrived in Bali earlier than the rest of the group because we had different flights. Once we got to the villa, we waited to choose rooms with our friends and didn't mind when they chose the ones with the en-suites. We had a great time during the trip. Jake and I did some couples activities, massages, hiking, dinners, but we also spent time with Kate and Mary and their families whenever it worked for everyone. To be nice, I even surprised them with massages to give them a break. The only thing that made me uncomfortable was that whenever I ordered a drink, a cocktail before dinner or a glass of wine with meals, I'd get comments like, "Oh, you're drinking again?" For context, I'm a social drinker, don't drink often, but we were on vacation and I didn't think it was a big deal, especially since our husbands were drinking too. I just ignored the comments so I could enjoy the trip. Then, on the last night, Jake and I made plans with the guys to go out, and Kate and Mary, they were staying in to pack. Jake convinced me to join him, and since it was the last night of our vacation, I didn't want to stay in either. We went out and had a great time. We got home at 1 a.m. and I passed out straight after. The next morning was a bit chaotic with everyone packing and checking out, but we all made it back home without issue. We had booked business class seats back, so we were separated during the flight and said quick goodbyes at the airport. After returning home, I got a long text message from Kate saying that both she and Mary wanted to reduce contact with me because I had ruined their vacation. They mentioned several things like me drinking every night, that I wasn't acting like a girl's girl, that I booked different flights, didn't hang out with them enough, and that I was selfish for not helping with their kids. She even said I was just focused on partying and not acting my age. This message really hurt me. I cried after reading it, and honestly, I don't know what to think. I thought I was just enjoying my vacation, but clearly they had a very different view. I haven't responded yet, and my husband has been asking what's bothering me, but I don't know what to say. So, am I the a-hole for how I acted during the trip? Edit. 4 hours later. Thank you, Reddit, for all your kind words and support. Reading through the responses and seeing how many of you are upset on my behalf has made me reflect on how I initially planned to handle things. I was going to apologize, thinking it might be the easiest way to keep the peace, but now I realize that might not be the right approach after all. I have also showed my husband Jake this post and the text message, and he told me to thank you for looking out for me. He's actually pretty angry on my behalf about the text message. I showed him some of the comments that gave me insight on how my friends may have been feeling, which which has given us both a lot to think about. He asked me what I wanted to do next and if I wanted him to respond to my friends for me. While I appreciated the offer, I told him I'm still thinking it over. He reassured me that he's here for me no matter what, and if I decide I want him to step in, he'd be ready to say something on my behalf. For now, I'm going to sleep on it and take some time before I respond or don't respond to the text message. If I do, I'll post an update. Again, thank you all for helping me see things a bit more clearly. I feel less alone in this now. Now, here are some relevant comments. User 1 said,
Not the a-hole. They are 100% jealous. There's a stage in life where child-free people do better hanging out with other child-free people. People with kids can't see past their family lives and don't understand why you might want to live your life. I've been that soldier. Whatever about meeting for coffees, lunch, dinner, traveling with them is an absolute no.
I think you're right. I shouldn't have gone on the trip, and personally, I don't remember them being so judgmental. Thank you. Then OP elaborated on telling her husband and said, I was going to, but was worried that he might want to talk to their husbands. I'm very non-confrontational and was thinking about just apologizing. Thank you. I will tell him. Then user 2 commented and said,
Get a grip on yourself. Apologize for what?
Well, given the responses, I don't think I will be apologizing. I realized that actually they owe me an apology. Then user 3 commented and said in a downvoted comment,
It does seem a bit weird to me that these are your friends of 15-ish years, and yet you chose to spend time with them only when it was a group activity. It would make more sense to me that you would want to spend time with them, go out the three of you to leave the men behind, or you stay behind when the men went out. You surprised them with massages. Did you arrange it for the three, or did you send them off with their husbands? Did you babysit? You booked separate flights.
Then OP replied with her own downvoted comment and said, We did group activities or I went out with my husband. The massages were for the three of us. No, I did not babysit. As you said, these are my girlfriends for about 15 plus years. I should have offered to babysit without having to be asked. Thanks for a different point of view. Then user 4 said,
OP, are they breastfeeding and can't drink? Did they expect you to only hang out with them the whole time?
No, they aren't breastfeeding. They just aren't drinkers. To be fair, I'm not a huge drinker myself. I think they were looking for us to have more time together. And then user 5 commented and said,
What were their husbands doing to help with the kids? You said the husbands were drinking and you would have a drink too. Were the husbands doing 50% of the childcare?
No, my friends were doing the childcare primarily, from what I observed. And then finally, OP elaborated on how much she drank and said, I passed out in my bed after a night out in heels. We were at a bar till 1 a.m. and I was exhausted. And I only drink as much as I can handle. 4 to 5 cocktails is my max. As a woman in her late 30s, I have bad hangovers, so I drink within reason. My husband, on the other hand, had drinks a lot more than I can handle. Update. I'm piggybacking off the top comment here because there's an issue with posting updates, but here's what happened. I spoke with Mary on text, and she said she agreed on the most part, and they both have had a problem with me for ages because I invited them to or only organized adult-only events and nothing family-friendly, which isn't true, and I was the one who organized her baby shower. I added both of my ex-friends to a group chat to discuss my feelings, and throughout the interaction, no apology for their passive-aggressive comments or even acknowledgement that I tried to be accommodating. I gave them better rooms, organized massages, kept our shared space organized, made all the dinner reservations, helped prep snacks, got gifts for them and the kids. Mary just said that she's sorry it's come to this, and Kate just ignored me. I was so disappointed in these women who I thought were my friends. I blocked them, and I unfollowed them on social media. I'm going to share this Reddit post with our mutual friends who want the tea, and I told Jake about it, and he just said good riddance. I'm going to Japan next March and Fiji in December for a wedding, and I'll be posting on social media with the caption, finally, a real vacation. Thank you to the person who suggested it. And then finally in the comments section, one user said,
OP, out of curiosity, what did your mutual friends think about it? P.S. You are not the a-hole.
I spoke to a few friends, and they kind of mentioned that they knew, and they also got some comments on other stuff in the past, so they were including these two for my own sake. I think I'll be fine on the friendship front.
I don't really have much for this story. I can't really relate to it. I think that one comment probably hit the nail on the head here, just that she's child-free, they have families, so there's a discrepancy there. It seems like her friends were being kind of rude, though, and, not really willing to recognize what OP's done for them. I don't know. I feel like we might have needed a bit more details or some perspective, but I given what we have here, I feel like OP's not the a-hole. She wanted to drink, but I feel like she's vacationing as a child-free person in a marriage, and they're vacationing as people with children in a marriage, and I just feel like there's a discrepancy there. But anyway, now she can get drunk in Japan. Anyway, next story.
Story number 9. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's friend that he was selfish and hurting his wife? My 32F husband, 36M, has a high school friend, 36M. Let's call him John. John is a typical jock. Athletic, good-looking, popular with girls, but I've been around him enough to see and hear him being questionable towards women. Now onto the story. We were in a group of friends and I was introducing them to my new baby. And important info, I had a miserable pregnancy. Well, the topic of having kids came up and John started saying how him and his fiancée, 32F, would be next. More important info. His fiancée, Janet, is an amazing lady. Kind, smart, gentle. Recently, she has been through a lot. Lost her dad and her health has been terrible. Not going to say what, but she has a disease that causes headaches, weakness, dizzy spells, fainting, extreme fatigue. She's become more and more emotionally and physically dependent on it. On top of that, she and I come from another country, and it means her family and support system are not here. But back to the situation. I asked her if they planned to have kids after their wedding, which is in 2 years, and I thought that because it gives her time to recover. He doesn't let her answer and said they agreed they would only get married after having kids. I am surprised for 2 reasons. She always said she wanted kids after marriage, and her health is not good. She doesn't say anything but looks sad. I argue that it doesn't seem like a good plan, and that a pregnancy now could put her health at risk. And he said her fertility window is almost closing, and that is now or never. And I started getting angry, and we discussed, and I ended up saying he is selfish, and this decision is only based on his wants and needs and is hurting her. Basically, a form of abuse. The room gets quiet, and we ended up leaving. My husband later agreed with me, but said it was not my place to say anything. Our friends are mixed on this, some saying that someone had to say it, but that I was too harsh. I feel maybe it was not my place, and I was being a busybody, but after being through a hard pregnancy myself, without my family, I know how hard it is. And my husband is a great supportive guy. Meanwhile, John leaves her alone all the time to party and enjoy life. He is dooming someone that trusts him blindly into a horrible situation. So, am I the a-hole? Now here are some relevant comments. User 1 said,
What you said was the truth, but you were a little harsh. I think you were right to say it because the guy obviously doesn't care about how he treats his wife, but I also think you should ask his fiancée in private how she feels about her situation.
I agree that I came out too strong. I feel protective towards her though. She is so sweet and nice, and I feel she doesn't deserve the way he treats her. But when I say something in private, she keeps repeating herself that he loves her and she's never met a man like him before. I feel that she thinks that he is out of her league or something. Then user 2 commented and said,
Honestly, I think he knows what he's doing. There's a reason he won't legally commit to her until after she has children, and it's not a kind or responsible reason. So I don't think he's going to care about what you said or the potential health outcomes for your friend. It may be satisfying to call him out, but is it going to change his mind?
So, I found this part extra strange. The first time we met, she literally said how her dream was to have a wedding and then kids. She even repeated that recently. She comes from a Catholic upbringing, like me, and it doesn't seem like a thing you change your mind that easily about. Then user 3 said,
Everyone sucks here, except for the wife. In this conversation/fight, both you and John are treating his wife as if she's a child that can't make decisions for herself. He is talking over her, but you are also making assumptions about their decisions based on her looking sad.
I admit I should have spoken to her first, but we just had a conversation about her health and she was telling me how some days she can barely make it out of bed. His smugness made me so angry, as if he knows what is best and no one can question him. Then user 4 commented and said,
Honestly, I would be pissed if someone started talking and arguing about my health issues in public. I'm a really private person. Does the rest of the group know about her health issues? You didn't speak to her, but made assumptions. She might not confide in you anymore. He might be an a-hole, but she is an adult and you could have made it worse for her. I had 2 awful pregnancies and was alone without family around, but my husband is amazing as well. I get where you're coming from, but seriously, be more aware next time and show your friends some respect. And don't talk about people's medical history in front of other people. Everyone sucks here. Obviously not your friend, though.
I see your point. The group started with some people that studied together and expanded with their SO. We meet often and are friendly, and when she got sick, we took turns visiting her, checking in on her when she was alone for one reason or another. Everyone seems to try and be her support system, but they seem to be afraid to say anything to John. And then finally, user 5 commented and said,
He probably does and just doesn't care. John being aware that his wife isn't in a good place for kids. If him and OP's husband are such good friends, why didn't he say anything? Call out your friend's crappy behavior, people.
My husband is great, but everyone jokes he has a man crush on John. John. He was John's sidekick in school and doesn't listen when I point out some comments that John makes. And then finally, the consensus was that OP was not the a-hole, with some mixed results. Update. Thank you all for the answers. I am blown away by all the perspectives and was able to see further into the situation. I reached out to Janet and invited her for a coffee. We usually talk with more people around, so this was the first time we were truly alone, and I started by apologizing. I said I should not have said all those things in front of everyone, and acted as if she cannot speak for herself. She said she was initially embarrassed, but after further thought, she started questioning if it really was a good idea to have kids now, and she has scheduled a talk with a specialist. She said John doesn't know and she wants to have more information before talking to him. She also said he was furious afterwards and they had a terrible fight. So, you guys were right. It was not the right move. And he did blame her, saying she should have defended their position and that she knew having kids was a must for him. He also said that a woman would only be a real woman if she ever gave her man biological children. She asked him what if she could not, and apparently he never answered. It seems more has happened in the fight, but I decided not to pressure her and let her tell me what she was comfortable with. Lastly, she decided to take some time off and go home to her mom, and I think it's a great idea. The saddest for me was that she cried, saying someone like her would never get a man like him, and that she was scared of losing him, that it was like she found a golden ticket. I held my tongue because I personally don't think he is a prize, but again, I took the advice and did not pressure further. I also had a long talk with my husband, and we are at odds. He still thinks I'm overreacting and that John poops gold. I'm frustrated, but there's not much I can do for now. Not a fantastic update, but it has only been a few days, so I will let you know if there is anything big happening.
So, first off, I cannot wait for an update on this one, but I can definitely see and understand the other perspectives provided in the comment section, but it seems that, Janet, the friend, might be in some type of abusive relationship. Not physically, but it's just, he's not treating her right, and she puts him on a pedestal, and he's like, whatever, woman, give me babies. If you can't, well, you suck. And so, I don't know, I understand OP's concern. I think she's being a good friend. I just think she went about it the wrong way. I think maybe she had a bit of an emotional outburst, just seeing someone that she cared for and, felt protective of being hurt. And as for John, given all the information that we've received here, he does not sound like a quality guy, was not painted in a good light. But I think OP's kind of learned her lesson here that she needs to, stay idly by, stay at the ready, be open, be willing. But I think Janet, this is a Janet story, really. This is a Janet problem that she has to go through. And if she wants to reach out to OP, then it's good that OP's there, but she can't budge in and be like, hey, what's going on? Tell me. Janet has to realize that John sucks. And hopefully she does. Anyway, next story. Story number 11. Should I sue my girlfriend for selling my stuff? We are both in our early 20s and have been together for 3 years. It has been 2 months since we moved in together. When I was a teenager, I was obsessed with collecting Pokemon cards. I had over 5,000 cards in my collection. A lot of them are crappy, worth 5 cents to $3, but some are worth up to $250. Personally, I never intended to sell them, or at least not in the near future. Well, my girlfriend gave away my entire collection to her cousin 1 month ago without asking me, since he asked her if he could have them when he visited us. She gave them away, believing that since I'm an adult now, I won't need them. As I was cleaning my room a few hours ago, I realized my collection box was missing, and I went crazy looking for it. An hour later, she came home after running some errands and told me what she did. I told her to get all of them back, and she has refused because it would be humiliating for her. So, what should I do? I have a recording of her confessing to it, so I can easily get compensated for it in court, but I'm assuming that will effectively end the relationship. Though I love her a lot, I believe I would rather have my cards. It doesn't seem right to sue her for this, but I don't know how I can recover my collection. If there is a less aggressive way to handle this, please let me know. Any advice? Edit. Just really quick, I wanted to let you all know she gave them all away for $10. Then in the comments section, one user said, OP, do you have an estimate or the total value? I do. It's about $5,000 to $5,500 in today's value. Then user 2 commented and said, I'd agree that this is a deal breaker. What an ass. She's more concerned with her ego than fixing her mistake. Yes, I saw he refused, but she did not try hard enough. Has she even apologized? Then user 3 said, I bet you she kept the $10 too. As for the cousin, what an a-hole. Obviously it runs in the family. OP, I guess you have to go over and explain the collection wasn't hers to give or sell. As for how snotty you have to get, it depends on what they do about it, I suppose. Also, you will most likely have to give that snotty kid $10. And I edited this comment to say you will probably have to take your girlfriend to small claims court since she doesn't want to embarrass herself. Then user 4 said, OP, please update with the decision that you made.
I am definitely contacting the police because apparently I'm a man-child with ego problems who just wants to humiliate his girlfriend in front of her family members. Like, what?
Then user 5 commented and said, "No, you shouldn't sue your girlfriend. It seems like you are ready to break up over this. Just insist on getting your cards back. Talk to the cousin/their parents directly if you have to. There's a better option than paying thousands of dollars for the court to intervene." And then finally user 6 replied and said, "Please upvote this. Court is not cheap, and that better be the most impressive hoard of cards ever, or you're never going to get anywhere near the value of the cards just to see a lawyer, and have him tell you there's no way you'll get this to court."
I see your point, but they are worth $5,000 to $5,500 in terms of today's value. And more importantly, they have sentimental value to me, and I'm pretty sure that's something. One other commenter suggested that this is something the police would be able to handle, so there is no need for any court. So first, I will probably try that and hopefully get them back. Thank you for mentioning how expensive that could be, so I'll definitely keep it as a last resort. Edit. The small claims court can only award me up to $1,000, equivalent to my currency, which is not the monetary value of the cards. There is also sentimental value, which is worth way more. My sister is a lawyer, by the way, and she said since the monetary value is huge, the police will get involved and treat it as a serious matter. I've given her time to think about it, but if she doesn't do anything, I will go and file an FIR against her and the cousin since I won't have any other option at that point. Update. Holy crap, never thought this is how my 2021 would end. A lot has happened since my first post, but first of all, I want to thank you all for the support, the tips, and the wishes of good luck. I will start by clearing some assumptions. In my original post, I said that though I love her a lot, I believe I would rather have my cards. This statement alone pissed off some of you, so let me elaborate on that. My first ever 300 cards were my father's collection. He died of hepatitis C. He was quite into gaming, and my mom kept his cards for years and gave them to me when I was in my early teens, and I got hooked. I grew the collection to 5,000 cards. There was immense sentimental value attached to those cards. Anyway, after my girlfriend refused to talk to the cousin, he refused to give me the cards when I asked his parents who were being jerks to me. So I took the legal route. I filed an FIR. Initially, I had trouble since the police didn't care about some cards, but my sister, who is a lawyer, or is about to become a lawyer, told the police the estimated value and they got interested. We told the police $5,000 to $5,500 for the value of the cards. Things took time, but the police eventually confiscated the cards, all 4,987 of them, and got them appraised by a company. They came back with a value of approximately $6,000. I told the police the missing cards were also of substantial value since they were very old, and that SOB sold the one that my father left behind, and the cousin told us who he sold it to, and those people gave the cards back with no problems. Right now, the police have all the cards. The cousin who I knew had his eyes on my cards threw my girlfriend under the bus. I know this because he wanted to buy those for me in the past, but I refused. He told the police he bought those in good faith, and my girlfriend also tried lying to the police. But since I had her on recording, she got into even more trouble. She got charged with grand larceny and also fined for lying to the police. I should get the cards by the end of this month or by early January. The police just said they need to finalize and file some reports and then I can have them. Some of you were also saying that I should take this to small claims court. This amount is too big for that, at least where I am. Edit. I forgot to add that my sister wants to sue all of them for emotional distress, but I don't know about that. Any advice on that one? Now here are some more relevant comments. User 1 said,
OP, it's probably time to quit referring to her as your girlfriend.
"Oh crap, you're right. I'm so used to it, I didn't even realize."
Then user 2 commented and said, OP, you said in the comments that the cousin got some ass whooping in front of you? Do elaborate, please.
Okay, so when the police went to confiscate the cards, I and my sister were with them. They got them, left, and we just stood there and his mother slapped the crap out of him. I don't condone violence, but I won't say I feel bad for him.
Then user 3 replied and said, Wait, I thought they were being jerks to you. Why was she upset with him?
They were jerks to me in the start when the police weren't involved. I asked them first nicely, and they were jerks. I went to the police. So when the police went and confiscated the cards, after that the mom was slapping her kid.
Then user 4 replied and said, Do you think it's that she didn't believe her kid could do such a thing and she's slapping him because it got proven? Or is she slapping him for making the parents have to deal with the law?
I honestly think it's because the police came to their house with their sirens on and all the neighbors came out, so the embarrassment would have been unreal, and she was probably taking that anger out on him.
And then finally user 5 commented and said, OP, what did your girlfriend say about all of this? Has she apologized? The cousin, will he receive any sanction? How long will your girlfriend spend in jail? Has anyone in her family said anything? Will you keep updating this? I hope so.
She honestly said a lot of stuff like, how am I prioritizing cards over a human? I'm choosing things over my girlfriend, so I'm objectifying her, which makes me a misogynist. And she hopes I never get sex or a partner and I die miserably. She said all kinds of wild stuff. And no, she hasn't apologized. As for the cousin, he got nothing. He and his parents lied, and my sister said not to say anything since we were getting what we wanted, which was the cards. And I don't know what else to update, but I should be getting my cards soon.
Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, Digimon, Digital Monsters, Gwent the card game, video games, makeup, jewelry, accessories. You don't sell other people's stuff. Are you stupid? Just imagine me shaking the ex-girlfriend. We need to start calling her that. And also, she sold the cards for $10. She just had no mind in this. Like, she wasn't even good at being a thief or a crook or just being evil in this situation. She said, oh, look at all of these pieces of paper, $10. No, those pieces of paper are worth a lot of money. I just read today about a dime that sold for $500,000. A rare dime for $500,000. This woman is stupid and dumb and will be going to jail for stealing and selling Pokemon cards that aren't hers. Personally, I was a Yu-Gi-Oh kid growing up, but I am still glad that justice has been served nonetheless, okay? Those were his father's cards. That is suffice enough to go on a John Wick revenge story to get them back. You know what? We should make a nerdy John Wick movie about Pokemon cards. He doesn't kill anyone, but I don't know, he plays cards against them or something. Ooh, that's actually not a bad idea. I'll have to write that down. I do screenwriting, by the way. I'm a voice actor and screenwriter. Your narrator is so talented. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching the video. Oh, wait, we're not done yet. Hold on, we have more stories. I lied. Let's keep going. Story number 12. My new employee ran a background check on me and asked me about what he found, plus a 5-year update. I started a new position recently and was promoted quickly to a management position. Great, I have a long supervisory background. Looking forward to helping in a wider capacity. One of my direct reports is a very conscientious and ambitious young man named Scott, who I found pleasant to work with. Last week, during a normal conversation about a project, Scott brought up that he had done a background search on me, and then asked me about an arrest on my record, an insurance snafu that led to a driver's license snafu, and when I was pulled over for a normal traffic stop in a rather conservative county, I spent a night in lockup, which was both humiliating and illuminating. This information is not immediately available on Google. I gave it a try myself after he brought it up, and some of the specific details that he provided leads me to believe that he went to one of the publicly available background report sites and paid the nominal fee to obtain a detailed report. His question was framed that he had been doing some research and wanted to clarify what happened in X state because it wasn't clear if the arrest was in X or Y state. I lived in Y state more recently, but there's nothing easily found that links the two without paying for it. In the moment, I answered truthfully that these items were from more than a decade ago and were the result of a particular set of circumstances. I then excused myself from the conversation and returned to my office. But the longer I think about it, the more worried out I am. Scott would like to advance, and I feel like a follow-up conversation is definitely warranted, but I'm struggling with an approach from a side of, hey, you super violated a boundary for me that will go over like a ton of bricks if you do it with future managers. To be fair, this is an overtly aggressive office culture, and asking to explain your professional background in a fair amount of detail to coworkers or employees is par for the course. But while I understand having a background check run by the company during the hiring process, I'd like to keep my personal background personal. And while I'm not wild about discussing this embarrassing incident, my reaction was more of a how and why did you obtain this information, rather than a deep dark secret that I'm worried might come to light. How do I let go of my weirded out feeling, and how do I best address this in a follow-up conversation? Update. Imagine my surprise when I opened the blog today to find you had re-released my letter. I felt an update was owed to the commentariat. I can't tell you how much I appreciated your advice on this peculiar situation. It was a much-needed grounding and reminder of what normal should look like. While I was not able to participate when the post was originally published, I did read every single comment. Your point, though, about questionable judgment was spot on. Scott was indeed a younger employee and deeply convinced himself of the superiority of his own intellect and gender. He had a 5, 10, and 15-year life plan with ambitious goals.
Unfortunately, this was coupled with no more sense than God gave a goose. His previous work experience in an unrelated field left him the impression that it was absolutely reasonable to deeply examine the people around him, but then verify his findings through research. As part of his 5-year plan, he was applying for many roles within the company in search of advancement, despite not having relevant experience nor demonstrating development in any key skill areas. As mentioned in my letter, I was hired on an in-line level position and then promoted to a management position within a couple of months. In that industry, career advancement is often tied to reassignment in diverse geographic locations, going where the work is, and arriving at a new location is accompanied by sharing bona fides with the team to build connections. Imagine you've worked for 20 years for the same company, but have moved 8 times and never worked in the same place with the same team more than 2 years in a row. I had spent a great deal of time grabbing opportunities as they arose, living out of suitcases and working far, far too much. I had garnered some nice accolades in some faintly glamorous locales, but anyone who has done it knows that the luster is surface level only. Scott was intensely interested in my career experience and how I progressed in the field. Coupled with his desire for promotion and deeply flawed perceptions around reasonable follow-up, this led to the rather extraordinary situation I wrote in about. Armed with the knowledge that Scott was about as intuitive as a pile of bricks, I was planning a follow-up conversation the next time we worked together. But he then beat me to the punch when he asked me again about the information he had found as soon as I approached his desk, this time with a copy of my booking photo pulled up on his screen. What? I reacted much more decisively this time, telling him to close the browsing window immediately and pulling him into the office for a one-on-one conversation. Looking back, I think I used your phrasing almost verbatim around work boundaries and everyone deserving the privacy. Scott was mostly confused by this response. In his view, it was perfectly reasonable to look for deeper information about almost anyone. His rationale behind asking me about what he'd found was that he wanted to alert me that this information was out there, and I told him it was unacceptable behavior and demonstrated incredibly poor judgment that he'd dig this far into any colleague, much less his manager. Then, to bring it up multiple times, the company completed background checks for every employee. If they had proceeded with the hire, one would assume that nothing relevant was in the report. I also let him know that this was such an egregious situation, we would be documenting both conversations and issuing a write-up, and this endangered his future with the company. After distance from the situation, I genuinely believe Scott was an incredibly intelligent person, demonstrating that anyone can be an absolute idiot. Did I document the situation in detail? Absolutely. Did I discuss this with HR and my boss? Absolutely. And she was ready to fire Scott. HR was flabbergasted and incredibly helpful in their handling of the situation. My documentation plan was supported with the agreement that Scott was on his final chance. And did Scott get promoted into another position? Not while I was there. After this incident, he did demonstrate an earnest desire to improve as a team member and make amends. We parted on decent terms, and I actually wound up suggesting he read AAM regularly. Unfortunately, my industry was one devastated by the pandemic. Almost my entire professional network was either unemployed or being overworked as a skeleton staff. Driven by necessity, I grabbed a copy of Allison's book, How to Get a Job, and after giving some serious consideration about what I'd like out of my work moving forward, I retooled my resume and got to hunting. I have successfully transitioned to a new, very different industry and landed a position with a great company. It offers a much better work-life balance and more reasonable employee culture. While I do sometimes miss my old career, my situation is much improved and I've been quite happy to be settled down. I have no idea where Scott has landed, but I wish him well, and I will not be Googling him.
So, Scott is a little quirky, a little weird, kind of creepy. I don't know what his mindset was here. Looking up this information and his reasoning being, oh, well, I just wanted you to know that it's out there. Also, can you tell me everything about it? What room do you sleep in? What time do you go to bed? What are those funky 3 digits on the back of your credit card? Can you tell me? Okay, Scott, I don't know. I'm not going to say he's a horrible person, but he pulled a dumb move. And also, OP types as if they're writing out an email. It's Reddit, people. Put a couple of LOLs, WTFs, BBQ, a few emojis, an emoticon, if you will. Just, spice it a little. But, the OP is eloquently well-written and got the point across that Scott, maybe he's not as smart as everyone thinks he is. But anyway, next story.
Story number 13. OP gets uninvited from his brother's wedding, then gets harassed by his family for not caring enough. So, this whole thing is so weird. I, 27, am gay. I came out at 16 and my parents told me they would always love me, but to not mention it to my older brother, who I will call Brick, then 19M, 30M now. When I was confused and asked why, they said that Brick had expressed some awful opinions about gay people. I limited talking to Brick until I moved out at 18, which wasn't much of a problem because we were never close. I went to university, got a good job, and an awesome boyfriend, 28M, in my home city. Me and my boyfriend Angel live a peaceful life. Peaceful until a few days ago when I got a call from my brother. I was concerned that Brick was calling me, as we have never messaged before, just had each other's numbers for emergency purposes. I picked up because maybe there was some emergency happening. He opened the call with an annoyed, "Hey man," and I knew something was up. He said he was getting married to his fiancée Yan, 24F, next year. I didn't even know he had a girlfriend. I was like, "That's great, Brick," and I asked him some boring wedding things that he begrudgingly answered. He then told me invites were being sent out in a couple of weeks and that I could bring a +1. Here's where I made the mistake that started this mess. Without thinking like an idiot, I said, "Cool, I'll bring my boyfriend." Major mess up. Brick immediately started yelling insults down the line, screaming that he wouldn't have an F slur at his wedding. I didn't say anything and just hung up. I was rattled by hearing those words from my own brother's mouth, even though I knew his feelings about people like me. I told Angel and he comforted me, ordering in my favorite restaurant and watching movies with me, which was awesome. We went to bed later and I felt alright the next day. I sent my parents a message that Brick invited me and uninvited me from his wedding pretty much in the same breath, and went on my way to work. Not a clue of the crap storm waiting for me when I got off. When I turned my phone on again after my shift, it was blowing up. Messages and calls from my parents and relatives galore asking me what the F happened. I phoned my parents back when I got home and gave them the rundown of what happened, and said I honestly didn't care because it's not like Brick would be coming to my wedding anyways. My parents immediately chastised me for my obvious disinterest and disregard of my brother's life, and told me I should apologize to him for bringing my personal life into his wedding? What? I basically told my parents to screw off and have been getting bombarded with messages from relatives to apologize to my brother and get my invite reinstated, and apologize to my parents for disrespecting them, but I really don't want to. Angel's reassuring me that I did nothing wrong, but it's still nagging me. Am I the a-hole? Then in the comments section, one user said, "OP, why did your brother sound annoyed at the beginning of the call? Did he already know, or was he being forced to invite you by your parents? Seems weird." He's never been my biggest fan, honestly. We were very different as kids, like polar opposites, and he didn't like that. Very on brand for him. He definitely didn't know I was gay before the call. My parents have kept it very under wraps for years. In terms of he was being forced to invite me by my parents, I really have zero clue. Update. Y'all have really opened my eyes on a lot of issues in my family. I apologize for only replying to a few comments. There's just so many of you. Big shout out to all the people who have given compliments to Angel. I showed him this post last night and he thanks you all. I've been showing him lots of love because he really is an angel. And to the people calling this fake, AI, cliche, and whatnot, I hate to break it to you all, but this is just my life. It sounds cliche because this is the sort of all too real thing that happens to many people in the community. Just move along if you want to say that stuff, because you're honestly just wasting your time. One of two things I would also like to address is people questioning me about thinking I could possibly be the a-hole in this situation. And all I can say is that when you have a mass of people telling you you're wrong for what you did, it's hard to not maybe believe them just a little bit, no matter how absurd it is. Second thing, for people wondering how no one in the family knew I was gay, I really was never close to them, nor am I close to them now, my extended family, as they all live in different provinces, and my immediately family never traveled. We really just send each other holiday and birthday messages and have brief conversations whenever those are sent, and I just never had the urge to come out to them. Anyways, on to the update. I decided I didn't want to let this sit for any longer. I took a day off work and I added my parents, Brick, and all of the family that messaged/called me into one big group chat per one advice I saw here. I laid out everything that went down to them in case they were told a different story by my parents and brother. I told them that I was going no contact with my parents and Brick no matter what. And if they didn't apologize and realize what they did wrong, or I cut them off too. I turned my phone off and continued on without it for the rest of the day. Once I turned my phone back on again, I had lots of messages from them. My parents were outraged, and Brick said nothing. Some of my extended family apologized and told me that my parents were just telling them I was mean to Brick about some of his wedding plan choices, which got me uninvited. Still trying to wrap my head around how stupid that is. Seriously think my parents might be Neanderthals. Anyways, the real story made others even more angry and more insistent that I apologize, and they were promptly blocked. I didn't answer any of my parents' text messages or calls and blocked them. I feel like I have a weight off my shoulders. I'm not concerned about my parents showing up at our apartment as they moved away from my city last year. Me and Angel are planning a lovely trip, per the advice of a lot of people that we thought was great, to go to France to visit his family during when the wedding will be taking place, which I'm very excited for. I've heard nothing but good things about all of them, and this will most likely be my only update on this post. And I thank you all for the support. So, first and foremost, whenever people write these stories up, they typically will use fake names, but this is the first time I've ever heard somebody be referred to as Brick. Brick, that's a new one. But you know what? For the homophobic brother, I feel like Brick is a good name because he's probably as dumb as a pile of bricks, and the parents are Neanderthals too. And I also have to applaud OP. I really liked just the putting everyone in a group chat saying, hey, here's the truth. Some of you probably have been told something else. Let me get ahead of it. Turn off my phone because I got to go make money. I got to go do something else. I got something better to do than turning the phone back on later. I like that, and it kind of gets you ahead of everything, and you can just kind of clear the air in one fell swoop and, let the cards fall as they may. So I applaud OP. Definitely not the a-hole. The parents weren't homophobic, but it seems like they were definitely problematic, dramatic, stupid, not worth keeping around, and definitely so for the brother. But anyway, next story. Story number 14. Will I be the a-hole here? My lab partner kept making fun of me for being short, F20, so I called him 22M short, and he got mad. I am 5'1" and female, and my lab partner constantly makes fun of me for being short. For example, I came back from the bathroom and he said, I thought you fell in the toilet because you're so tiny. And he also said that my hair is so big that it makes my head and me look even more tiny. I'm not insecure about my height, nor does making fun of it offend me, but it's annoying and ironic because he's short too. Looks 5'5", 5'6", and yes, I know that it might be because he's interested in me, but I don't find him attractive. So the teasing isn't cute, it's just very, very annoying. Last lab, I had enough of it and basically told him to shut up because he's like 5'5", and he said he's not 5'5", he's 5'9". I know I am very short, but he is definitely not over 5'7". We started arguing about it, so I told him I'll bring a measuring tape next class and we will find out the truth. I started to feel a bit bad afterwards because I know men are very insecure about their height. However, him obviously lying about his height and constantly making fun of me makes me in the mood to be petty. Will bringing the measuring tape make me the a-hole? Now here are some relevant comments. User 1 said,
not the a-hole. He's finally found someone shorter than him and it makes him feel superior. If he can't take it, he shouldn't dish it out.
So, do you think me bringing the measuring tape will make me the a-hole? Then user 2 commented and said,
not the a-hole. Bring in the measuring tape and a big black Sharpie. Don't say a word to him. Go to the door frame and mark 4, 5, and 6 between the 5 and 6 foot marks. Place the inches. And remember how parents used to measure kids' heights against the wall for door frame and leave marks for little Susie if she's so tall on October 31st and Ben is so tall on the same date? Then, don't say another word to him. Just leave the measuring tape marks so he has to look at them every day as he passes by the chart. Keep direct eye contact with him whenever he walks by it.
Wow, I am rolling with laughter. Thank you for this idea. I'm definitely going to do this. I was planning on just measuring him, but the marks on the wall would be more accurate. I don't know if I would be allowed to draw on the wall with Sharpie though. I may do it with a washable marker instead. Then user 3 commented and said,
not the a-hole. He shouldn't dish it out if he can't take it. But I don't know that it would help to escalate with the tape if you'll still need to work with him. Can you switch partners?
No, I can't switch my partner. This is my assigned partner for the rest of the semester. Thankfully, I only have 3 classes left. Then user 4 said in a downvoted comment,
he's definitely trying to flirt with you, IMO. He wants to emphasize how small you are because it makes him seem/feel bigger, and he's probably not used to that. He wants to make it clear that compared to him, you're just cute and small. He's obviously insecure about his own height, and I do think being short has wildly different implications for men and women, but it's not like you decided to do this after he made an offhand comment. You're clearly annoyed by this, and he's being disruptive and kind of desperate by not shutting the F up about it. Measuring tape might be the exact tool you need to show him why this kind of crap is very bad for him.
I think so too, which is why I was hesitant to say anything. I don't want to make him more insecure. I don't think he means it in a harmful way, but it's just annoying because he mentions it every single lab. However, last class he kept making inappropriate comments about our other lab partner and I getting married and having babies, and that really crossed the line for me. I gave him a death stare and told him to stop in all seriousness because the comments he was making were just making things awkward and uncomfortable. He chose not to listen and kept going, thinking he was funny, and after that, that, I lost all respect for him. Then user 5 commented and said, I had a guy that I worked with who insisted he was 5'8". I literally said, we're the exact same height, and I'm 5'3", dude. He had the audacity to say someone had lied to me because I was obviously 5'7" or so. Not the a-hole. Don't let their fragile masculinity bother you. Measure that boy. This is absolutely hilarious. This guy said the same thing, that I must be 5'5", so now I'm suddenly not short anymore, I guess. The audacity of these men to lie by a whole 4 inches thinking people won't notice is just embarrassing. And then finally, OP elaborated more on the bullying and said, I tell you what I told the other person who said the same thing. To clarify, he also said, I thought you fell in the toilet because you're so tiny, when I got back because it took a while. He also said my hair is so big it makes my head and me look even more tiny. And to add on, he repeatedly calls me shorty or brings up my race, saying my people are usually short. When I try to ignore him, he just keeps repeating the same thing to annoy me and get a reaction. I love being short, so there's nothing to be sensitive about. It's him being annoying and making these comments to someone he barely knows. All the while, he's also very short. That bothers me. Oh, and I'm bringing the tape. I'm planning to bring this 10-foot measuring tape, cut it at 7 feet, and taping it to the wall next to us before he gets there. I can't wait. I will update how it goes by Tuesday night. My class is Tuesday morning. Update. I got to class late because of traffic, so I didn't have time to tape it up. Also, there is no actual wall beside me, so nowhere I could really tape it. But I still measured him. I whipped out my tape measure, and they started laughing at first because everyone knew what was about to go down. Before I measured him, he asked me what the margin of error is, and I said that this thing is 2/3 inches off. We both knew he lied at this point, but I insisted to measure him, and at first he didn't want to get measured. I told him to take his shoes off, and he said he didn't want to. I said I'm subtracting an inch from the measurement then. He was 5'7" with the shoes on, so without them he's actually a little less. Even after I clearly measured him, he kept denying, saying it's wrong, that I measured him wrong, and that the tape measurer is incorrect. He then looked up, how tall is 67 inches, because he kept saying that must not be 5'7", and I couldn't believe he kept denying it, even though I clearly just measured him. His friend in the lab group across from us is about the same height as him, and also lied about his height last time too. So he was embarrassed as well because they both were obviously lying. I made a joke about how the top 2 inches must be invisible, and he wasn't too happy. Our lab TA, who is 6'2" by the way, came over and asked what the measuring tape was for. I told him it was to measure his height, pointing to my lab partner. I said he lied, and the TA started laughing too. Next week, I'm thinking of just taping the measuring tape at the door before class, so they are always reminded of it when they walk in. There's really nothing more I can do though. We both know he lied, even if he doesn't want to admit it. Okay, so I liked this story a lot. It didn't last too long. It was concise, straight to the point. It was short. And anyway, very petty, but you know what? Fun petty way. And the guy lied, and he got exposed, and also mentioned his breeding lesbian fantasies to 2 classmates. That was a thing. But you know what? The truth came out, and now it's up for him to accept that, whether he is delusional or not, or maybe stupid. I don't know. There's always a trend of stupid people in these videos. But you know what? You can't change your height. And so what? There's some people out there who are size queens or don't recognize the fact that in the US, not even 15% of men are over 6 feet tall. Forget them. You don't need them. If you're 5'5", then have 6-foot confidence. As Mr. Rogers once said, what is essential is invisible to the eye. Anyway, next story. Story number 13. I broke up with a guy because his best friend is a female. Hi Reddit, this is a bit long, so bear with me please. So, I started seeing this new guy, Beck, a couple of weeks ago. I had known him for a while before we began dating. He's really sweet and awesome, and the first 3 dates we went on went amazingly, and I really enjoyed being with him. Here's the problem. He has a very close friend named Kim who seems to constantly be in the picture. During date number 4, he talked about her a lot. Like, a lot. She was somehow the topic of every conversation, and when I would try to change topics, he'd always find a way to drift himself back to a memory of the two of them that they shared together. Granted, they grew up together and also dated at some point, so it would make sense that they would have lots of memories and chemistry. He also began telling me about the trip the two of them are planning to take, how they were taking her car, staying at her family's house, etc. I tried to ignore it at first and just let it go, because I too have a close friend of the opposite sex, but we never do anything like what they do. Our relationship is platonic, and the most we ever do is play Xbox together. I asked him to be my my date to my brother's wedding since I had a +1. This was after about 2 weeks of dating, and he declined, saying he had already made plans on that day to go bowling with some friends. But after I spoke with a mutual friend of ours, I found out she was going to be there and that they had set it up together. I was thinking of it for a while, and the more I thought of it, the more it bugged me. So on our last date, I said I didn't want to pursue a relationship anymore. He was confused because I had been acting normal up until this point, and he asked me why, and I told him, and I said, "I'm sorry, but it makes me uncomfortable how close you are with Kim. You talk about her a lot, and she seems to be a big part of your life. And since we are not official, and I would not try to tell you what to do, I'm just gonna walk away because it makes me uncomfortable." Well, let me tell you, he did not take it well. He said I was giving him an ultimatum, and I'm trying to force him to choose, and that I was being manipulative. I insisted that I just wasn't okay with it, and did not want to date someone who had that kind of relationship with someone who wasn't their girlfriend. We were not officially boyfriend and girlfriend, by the way, and I felt that I needed to break things off early before crap hit the fan. Well, I got an Uber home because I didn't want him to drive me. He was fuming, and later that evening I got a text message from a number I didn't recognize. Can you guess who it was? Yup, Kim. She texted me a paragraph about how Beck was crazy about me, and she thinks I'm wrong for judging her when I haven't even met her, and how I hurt him and was being manipulative. I responded saying I did not judge her at all, just the nature of their relationship did not sit well with me, and I wanted to end things before they got complicated. She responded saying that I needed to give him another chance, and that maybe me and her should meet so that I can see that she isn't a threat and we could even be friends. I didn't respond to her, and shortly after, his mom and my mom texted me telling me I'm overreacting. It's amassed into a much bigger deal than I thought it would be, and I don't want to be with him anymore anyway and try again because of how dramatic I feel that everyone is being. I've repeatedly been accused of being insecure amongst other things, and I literally cannot believe that it's blown up like this. I'm not an insecure person. I just got a really bad vibe from the situation, and I didn't want to be a part of it. Am I wrong for this? Should I give him another chance? Should I talk to this girl? Now here are some relevant comments. User 1 said, "OP, trust your gut. You were an adult here, stated your case, and then everyone else presumed to tell you what you should do. F them. This is not even about Kim being the main heroine in Beck's life anymore. You were standing up for yourself and clearly stating that you weren't comfortable. It's not a trick or game. I think you did everything right here, and you should block all of these people, except your mom, and let things cool off a bit. If it comes up again, you can say that if you felt it was off before, their bullying behavior after you made your point further reinforced that this wasn't right for you." I really feel bad because he was a super great guy and seemed to really like me too. I've had some tough luck with relationships and I really wanted to stay with him, but she bothered me too much. A part of me wants to try, but I know it's stupid and I'll just end up getting hurt. Then user 2 commented and said,
TBH, you did the right thing. You were honest and upfront and you walked away. If anything, they're being manipulative and trying to make you engage in a relationship that you find uncomfortable. Some people may think it's stupid or rude or wrong, but at the end of the day, it is discriminatory, and you have the right to reject anyone for any reason. It's manipulation and honestly SAE attitude for someone to try to make you stay and recruit their friend to try to coerce or intimidate you. So good for you for leaving. You aren't in the wrong, and hopefully they will leave you alone. If you need someone to chat with or vent to, feel free to send me a message. I'm happy to help if I can.
Thank you for your comment, but I do have to say that calling it SAE may be a bit tad overkill, but I see your point. It hurt to leave because I really liked him. I valued his friendship a lot, but as a SO, I knew we wouldn't last. It really pissed me off when he told her about it. Even during our conversation, she brought up things that I know I had only told him, so that leads me to believe he'd been confiding in her about our relationship, in which a way is SAE because it makes me feel violated. I just can't believe it ended this way. And then finally, user 3 commented and said,
"You are not wrong. I'm not a jealous type, but when I see behaviors like blaming it on you to feel a certain way, I know there is something to be careful with. Kim shouldn't have texted you. By doing that, she's giving away how she and Beck don't have any kind of healthy and normal boundaries. If you accept to give him a chance, there is a high chance this is going to be the dynamic. Every time you fight with Beck, Kim is going to intervene. Every time Beck doesn't like something about you, Kim is going to know. Every time you disagree on something with Beck, Kim is going to agree and they will let you know that. Every time anything happens between you and Beck, Kim is going to be there. I would say a big no to this, and you are in your right to be careful. No one wants drama at the start of a relationship, and the most important thing about this is the fact that he and she think you are being manipulative, when the only thing you are doing is just walking away from a relationship that you already see is going to be problematic. You are being careful, and I'm sorry your mother can't see it. You are not in the wrong on this. Beck should be aware how dangerously close his friend is to him and has to acknowledge that this is going to be a problem with future dates. He doesn't seem to know this, and you are not going to make him understand that. If he is really crazy about you, then he should be able to listen to you instead of blaming all of this on you and making you out to be insecure. I can tell you're not an insecure person, but this situation does make anyone be insecure. You don't know him well yet, and of course, there's going to be something to be insecure about. Specifically, if a friend who is always his ex is that close to him. It's not normal at all. There is something that they are both not accepting, and I hope this helps. If I were you, I would still try to meet this Kim person so I can be 100% sure.
Thank you. I really just felt so nervous about the whole thing. I kept telling myself I was overthinking it all, and it was fine, but my gut told me otherwise. I only got texted by Kim, and he never texted me. Not until days later to ask if I had found a new wedding date, which I have, by the way, and I told him, and he never responded. I might meet with Kim, but in a public place, and I guess I'll just listen to what she has to say. I see no point, though, in it, so I'm undecided. Update. So, I did not respond to Kim, but instead explained things to my mom, and she sided with me completely. She told me that Beck had called his mom, who is a former coach of mine, and told her that I yelled at him and tried to manipulate him because I was feeling insecure. He said that I broke up with him when he wouldn't do as I said, and she presumably contacted my mom afterwards. As you will see from my post, this was not true. I told my mom this and described the situation. She understood how I felt and why I left him and said that he sounded like a prick, and she was happy I didn't bring him to my brother's party for the wedding. I blocked Kim's number and did my best to gently explain to his mom what really had happened, understanding the whole time she'd probably believe her son over me, but surprisingly, she didn't. She did say that he genuinely cared about me, and evidently, I was a hot topic of conversation for a while before all of this. Said he was crazy about me and was excited to see where our relationship would go. While she admitted her son was immature at times but meant well, she was very nice about all of this, so I really appreciate that. I was genuine and understanding. I said that while I understood, I couldn't just ignore the red flags presented to me, and since nothing has changed other than him trying to have other people to convince me it's fine, well, then I made the right decision. She said she understood, and that was the end of it, with her at least. The worst with Kim did not end until I almost had to quit my DoorDash job. Side note, it's not with DoorDash, but for the sake of anonymity, I'll say that. And I primarily deliver to elderly or families with children. But as I was unloading groceries out front of a house who had only ordered bread, cheese, and bacon, I was a little confused, but mostly just horrified when I realized who it was. Kim had ordered from my line and gotten me to deliver to her house. She somehow found out I was working in her area. I didn't know it was her area, and I guess she did her best to get a hold of me. So yeah, I met her. Not by choice, but I did. She ordered from her mother's name, I'm guessing, by the way, because it wasn't a Kim who had ordered. She immediately began questioning me if I was still talking to Beck, if we were gonna get back together, if I had gotten over myself yet. However, her expression told me she already knew, but was just trying to annoy me in every way possible. Just in general being an absolute female dog about it. I was polite at first until she asked me about getting over myself, to which I said, and this is Reddit's advice, so it's really your guys' fault, if she had gotten over the fact that her boyfriend got dumped. She did not take that well, and didn't take the bag of bacon I was trying to give to her. Fine by me, because legally, if a customer declines a product you bring them, you refund them and keep whatever it is, since you usually can't return a food item. So, I'm eating some crispy, yummy Freedom bacon as I type. I left, and it's been pretty quiet. I have a new date to my brother's wedding party thing, and he is definitely just a friend. But Beck and Kim don't know that, so I'm going to be posting lots of pictures and dancing with him all night. We've both planned on this, by the way, and he knows everything, so it's even funnier that way. Beck has been stalking my social media, unliking and then liking posts. He even reported a picture of mine that had me and another male in it. He'll probably be like this for a little while longer and then drop everything, but it's kind of funny to watch. I'm moving on, and overall, I'm single and I'm happy. Thanks for the advice, Reddit. Appreciate you guys. And then finally in the comments section, one user said, I just want to say you should block Beck. The fact that he's telling lies and having other people confront you and low-key stalking you on social media is a red flag. That kind of stuff can easily inflate into something much bigger. Rejection is a big thing for potential stalkers. Take care of yourself. You did the right thing. I have unadded him on everything. I genuinely think if I go as far as to blocking him, it would just blow up again. I don't want to give him any more ideas.
Y'all, guys, I am so happy. That is me clapping right now. We've gotten so many stories of the best guy friend, the best girlfriend, and it never ends well. Like, I'm trying to, like, in recent memories, I don't know. I'm so glad that OP spotted it beforehand, because all the stories are getting into the relationship and realizing it, or seeing it and ignoring it. But OP is one of the few who says, hey, I've seen this before. I'm going to peace out. And thank goodness she did, because it's okay to have a best friend of the opposite gender, but when it's like that, when he brings them up all the time, you see the red flag. I am so happy for OP. Oh my god. She reads Reddit. She watches Really Sparked, okay? And maybe some Undersparked too. No Very Sparked, because that channel's dead, okay? But I am so she saw it beforehand. She's in the Matrix, dodging bullets and red flags like Neo did. God bless this woman. God bless America. Next story.
Story number 14. I am so jealous of my sister's marriage that it sickens me. I even snooped on her husband looking for evidence that he's actually crap, and I'm ashamed. My sister and her husband have always seemed to have a good marriage. They've been together for around a decade, but you never really know, right? And to be honest, I thought they were just pretending since I never had a relationship that was super good in private. Well, now I do know. I've been living with them for 3 months. They took me in when my ex cheated on me. They do nice things for each other all the time, and it's like they don't even think about it. It's just natural. They're always bringing each other little presents. Meanwhile, my ex called me shallow when I wanted him to give me one, even a cheap one for my birthday. Their eyes light up when they look at each other. My ex looked at me like I was a potato. They hug each other as though they haven't seen each other in months whenever one of them gets home. My ex ignored me when I got home or wanted me to leave him the F alone to effing relax whenever he got home. They encourage each other's hobbies and outside friendships. My ex hated my friends and thought my hobbies were stupid. And worse yet, I can tell they're holding back when it comes to being affectionate around me. I arrived home early from an event one day and saw her sitting in his effing lap while they watched TV and he played with her hair. The stuff I see is apparently just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how much they like each other. They've even been through some of the tough crap. Deaths, a miscarriage, job losses, that can tear couples apart, but they made it through just fine, I guess. I honestly didn't think relationships like this were real. I thought it was a Hallmark bullcrap thing and that all relationships are miserable, hard work once you get past the honeymoon stage. I couldn't believe it, so I snooped on her husband, Max. It turns out his private communications are fine. He had conversations with female friends, but they were only platonic, and he even talked about how much he loves my sister, Sandra. Anyway, I felt extremely guilty about snooping that I confessed. They forgave me. My sister took me out for the day without Max and told me she had been in crappy relationships before Max, which I already knew, and that she thinks they helped her learn how to spot red flags so that she'd be available when the right person for her finally came along. She's also gone to therapy for a long time, and she says it helped her learn how to make healthy relationship choices and be a good partner. Max and Sandra offered to pay for me to get therapy. My insurance isn't great, so that's nice. I just want to find something like what they have. There's a silver lining though, I guess. Now that I know this kind of relationship isn't a childish fantasy, I don't think I'll ever be able to put up with somebody like my ex ever again. Now here are some relevant comments. User 1 said, "It sounded like you wanted someone to be as miserable as you were to feel less alone. And I hope that therapy truly helps you heal and find value in yourself. Your sister and partner sound amazing, and I'm glad they are able to help you." You've nailed it. The more I saw my sister and Max being happy, the more I felt worse and worse about myself and my life all the time, and all the time I've wasted in bad relationships. I hope the therapy helps me too. Sandra and Max are good people, and I need to be more appreciative. It's hard when I'm so jealous, but it's important. I'm also glad that they're able to help me. I feel pathetic needing the help, but I do need it. Then user 2 commented and said, "You should take the offer of therapy. Your view on relationships is incredibly skewed, and some sessions might help untangle some of it so you can view the dating world with a bit of optimism. Once you do that, you are on your way to finding a healthy relationship. Good luck, friend." I am accepting the offer. I even have an appointment set up. Turns out it's easy to get an appointment when you don't have to go through insurance. And finally, user 3 said, "It sounds like your bad experiences have caused you to see every good deed that they do for each other as either weird or as an outlier, or as the stuff of movies, but fortunately, those sorts of relationships do exist. I reckon you should definitely take them up on their offer and get the therapy. It sounds like you need to get out of your head and spill it all out to someone who will listen and offer constructive advice. And the snooping around thing should only be a one-off. They're being generous by letting you stay with them, so don't piss them off. And I'd start comparing the relationships you had with your ex to your sister and brother-in-law's marriage. Your ex sounds like a complete turd." I accepted their offer to get me therapy. I'm definitely not going to snoop again, and that was a low point for me when it comes to my behavior, and I regret it. I'm amazed Max did not freak out. Update. Hi there. I'm the psycho who snooped into my brother-in-law's messages because I thought it was impossible for men to be great to their partners. So, I'm not exactly sure where to start, so I'm just going to use a list format and just write stuff in whatever order it comes to mind. I started therapy very soon after my post. My first therapist wasn't great, so my sister Sandra encouraged me to find another, and my second one was awesome. I'm still seeing him once every 2 weeks. He's helped me a lot with healing from the trauma of my last relationships, and also learning how to relate to others in a more healthy way in every part of my life. He also really helped me learn how to manage bitterness and jealousy, finding the underlying causes and working on those. Next, I moved out of my sister and brother-in-law's house after a couple of months. Then, it turns out that my sister and brother-in-law were secretly livid about the snooping, but they appreciated that I had confessed on my own and decided to be kind and help me. They decided that if I took advantage of the help they offered and put effort into being better, they would forgive me. I didn't realize how close I was to making my sister-in-law go low contact with me. Thankfully, I did take their help. I am also now no longer upset about seeing how loving my brother-in-law is to my sister anymore. I'm happy for her. They've also become foster parents after I moved out and are now in the process of adopting the little girl they've been fostering. They are literally the perfect people to be nurturing a traumatized child. They're doing so great, and the little girl Maddie is doing so much better than when she was first placed with them. She's an amazing girl, and she and my sister and brother-in-law are so lucky they've all found each other. Continuing, I have been single the whole time. That was on purpose. A few months ago, though, I determined that I'd be open to dating again. I didn't want to actively do anything, no dating sites, but I decided I wouldn't purposefully avoid dating anymore. And finally, a week ago, a guy I became friends with at an animal shelter I started volunteering at about 6 months ago asked me out. I said yes. Our first date was great. He's very kind. He's the guy you go to if you need to calm down a traumatized, terrified animal. He cleans feces off of coated animal carriers without any complaint. My sister approves of him. He's very funny too. So, that's the update. And now here are some more relevant comments. User 1 said,
OP, self-reflection is key in establishing or re-establishing healthy relationships. Good for you that you are doing what is necessary to be a better you.
Thank you. My sister has helped a lot, but the comments on my first post were also helpful, even most of the negative ones. Though there was one negative one that I actually remember in a particularly bad light. The person said I shouldn't accept the help my sister offered because I'd be taking advantage of her. I'm really glad I didn't listen to that person, considering that my sister was planning to go low contact with me if I didn't accept their help getting therapy. Then user 2 commented and said,
You are showing quite the number of positive decisions since your first mistakes. Please allow yourself some pride in that, OP. Good things should be rewarded.
And then finally, user 3 said,
OP, I am happy for you. I think a lot of us see toxic relationships growing up and learn to accept and normalize abuse. I wish more people would stop believing that they don't deserve true love and respect. So, this was a nice story to end things on. Short, sweet, concise. OP decided to go to therapy, which I always recommend, especially when it comes to these type of stories, because there's some crazy things we read about. And thank goodness she did, because of the low contact thing and the fact that she didn't take that other commenter's advice saying otherwise. And, and like that other commenter said, she should take pride in that. Good things should be rewarded, and just that's in general. That's for anyone. If you do something good, reward yourself. Take pride in it, Don't drink yourself into a coma or anything like that. But just in general, it's good advice, and I think we could all learn to take that. I'm somebody who needs to, pat myself on the back a bit more a few times. So just good, sweet, concise story, and we are at the end of the video for real this time. And if you would like to reward yourself, you could watch another really sparked video, or an undersparked video, or a super sparked. That's not a real channel. Don't go looking for that. That's not real. But anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Have a really good day, and bye-bye!